Baseball is winning on the BetQL network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of -2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've
gonna
looked at
say.
this over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL network, presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL network, presented by BetMGM.
Baseball is winning on the BetQL network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of -2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've
gonna
looked at
say.
this over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL network, presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL network, presented by BetMGM.
Baseball is winning on the BetQL network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of -2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've
gonna
looked at
say.
this over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL network, presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL network, presented by BetMGM.
Baseball is winning on the BetQL network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
and handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of -2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've
gonna
looked at this
say.
over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL network, presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL network, presented by BetMGM.
Baseball is winning on the BetQL network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
and handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of -2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've
gonna
looked at this
say.
over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL network, presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL network, presented
Service starts now. With Sean Marash.
I will punch you in your stupid face, and I hate the Knicks. I hate their fans.
And Pat Boyle.
That's probably why I'm not a GM in the NFL, but if I was, I would probably take a huge swing on Michael Penix.
Turning your faith into fortune.
Few things in the gambling world I can't wait to bet more than the Jets under right now.
While serving up hot takes and hot takes.
If Chet Holmgren was on that team, he's probably putting up better numbers than Wemby.
It's BetQL 5-Star Weekend, presented by BetMGM.
Well, a very good Sunday morning to all the beautiful people listening and watching around North America and the world. This is BetQL 5-Star Weekend. I'm Pat Boyle. Our round friend, Sean Marash, not in today, so we've got Sean Bell, another Sean, a much more handsome Sean than the one we're normally accustomed to. We've got producing the show today, Amir Tyree, Dan Turner, Kenny Henderson, Tyler Morales. Everybody's around here. It's a beautiful Sunday morning across the USA and North America. Sean, happy to have you on the show, man. What's going on?
I'm not the round friend. I'm glad I'm not the round friend. I guess we got to find a name for me to have, so I can figure out the skinny friend, hopefully the bald friend, the something friend. But I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be inside because it's like 100 degrees here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'm in the Northeast too, right outside of New York City and New Jersey. It is going to be a scorcher, and I think it's 95 with feel of creeping up to 100. I guess we're lucky though that we're not in Vegas or some areas in the South like Texas where it's going to get up to 110 today. I mean, my goodness, I've heard the word heat dome thrown around a lot this week, and that perfectly sums up what's been going around most of the USA this weekend, man. It is hot. So hopefully today's not the day where your AC conks out. Hopefully you are inside and you don't have to be sweating your ass off wherever you are. If you're going to a ball game today or if you're going to any game today, we've got plenty of soccer. All the niche sports are taking center stage here today as we await Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. We got plenty of soccer. We got plenty of baseball. We got some other good things going on today. A lot of sports to keep you updated on. So, Sean, your first time here on the show, at least with me. So how we normally kick off the 3 hours here, we'll be with you to 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. We start each hour by either giving you a hot take, something you're feeling hot about, something you're feeling spicy about, you got to let the world know, or a hot cake, which is a bet. So why don't we go ahead and kick it off? Hot cakes, hot takes.
Morning, people. Boy, do I need some hot takes and hot cakes.
Yes, sir. Sean, I'll go first here because I got a bet to fire off, and like I said, it's a big day for niche sports. I'm a big tennis guy. We got Wimbledon just around the corner, so I'm gonna put a little tennis bet in here because it's something that we can track the action over the next 2 hours. It's starting in just a couple of minutes here. One of the big tune-up tournaments before Wimbledon. It's in Queen's Club at London. And I'm riding with an Italian. I'm going with an underdog. No better way to start the show off than by putting some money on an underdog here. So I'm going Lorenzo Musetti. He's playing an American who maybe a lot of people know, a lot of casual tennis fans know. Tommy Paul, a guy that's just outside the top 10 in the world. But, I've been tracking the line movement, something that, us as experienced bettors like to do. You like to get the best value. You like to see where money is coming in on. And a lot of the times I like to be the contrarian. I like to be, everybody wants to be a sharp bettor. So I think this is hopefully a sharp play. A lot of money is coming in on the American Tommy Paul. He started out as a minus 170 favorite on the money line. He's gone all the way up to minus 300 on some markets that I've been tracking. He's been bet back down a little bit here, but I think this is, for a grass court where the margins are so thin, I just don't think that he should be this big of a favorite. So on the game markets, the game handicap, I think Lorenzo Musetti keeps this within 3 games. So plus 3.5, that's minus 125 odds right now on BetMGM. If you want to fire that in, it starts in literally just a couple of minutes here. So that's where I'm riding. I'm going with the dogs, all the dogs here to start this show.
Oh, you going with the dogs, the unknowns right now. Not the unknowns, but the unknowns to the casual fans. Okay, I like it. I don't have a cake, I have a take. This hot take is, in my opinion, we talking about niche sports and one sport that's trying to be popular as all the other major sports, WNBA, Indiana Fever, Chicago Sky. is the best rivalry in all of sports right now. And I know a lot of people are going to look crazy, but I've said this before. I think rivalries are dead. And what I mean by that is national rivalries. It's like it used to be Steelers Ravens was must-see TV for the entire country. But right now it's really kind of a local thing. There's not really, because both teams haven't been great lately. Same thing with North Carolina Duke. You got Coach K out of there, you got Roy Williams out of there. They still care in North Carolina, but you're not necessarily trying to tune in. You don't have many big-time rivalries that are national. You got local ones, but you don't have a lot of rivalries that are national. And Indiana Fever, Chicago Sky are starting to be a rivalry that everyone seems to tune in, right? Across the country. A lot of takes from all sides of the world, all right? A lot of opinions on all sides of the world about everything, and beef. I love beef. I love beef in sports. That's what I want to see. I want to see more people not like each other, right? And that's what we're missing in a lot of these sports. And that's what we're missing. Even in Philadelphia with the Eagles and the Cowboys, yeah, the fan base hates each other, but secretly they really like each other. I don't want to see that. You know what I mean? So I think Indiana Fever, I know a lot of people disagree because it's WNBA, it's women's basketball, but I believe that is the best rivalry in all of sports right now because we have an amount of attention that we haven't had in a long time and just amount of just ferocity that a lot of teams are missing nowadays.
I agree. I don't know if I agree that it's the best rivalry in sports. You know, you mentioned Duke, North Carolina. You got Yankees, Red Sox in baseball, football. I mean, every division. I think most divisional rivalries still in football, even though they have lost some juice, I still think are probably a little bit more fierce, but I absolutely agree with a lot of what you said in terms of just the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark dynamic, Fever versus Sky, and the entire storyline and conversations around Caitlin Clark. Like you said, when it starts taking on political angles and they're talking about it on political shows and they're talking about it, water cooler, when people are asking you at a normal job where it's not revolved around sports and sports betting, people are asking about Caitlin Clark and do you think that she's getting hated on unfairly or what do you think about this or what do you think about that? It's, it obviously is become a national storyline. That game they played last Sunday on Father's Day was huge. I was tuned in for some of it as I'm, doing some Father's Day festivities running around. But I do agree that when Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and some of the other big-time rookies, unfortunately, we've lost Cameron Brink for the season with the torn ACL. But this class that has come in, and Caitlin Clark, who has come in, a superstar before even touching the floor, and all the conversations that then get put into the forefront and in the fray that we never would have talked about beforehand, and how popular the WNBA has become just in these last few months. Who's her biggest adversary right now? I would agree that it's Angel Reese, and that's because of the rivalry they had with LSU and Iowa and their time in college hoops and a couple of meetings in the NCAA tournament. So I do agree that it's one of the best rivalries already, and you would think that it's only going to get more intense as those two stars continue to put some more time in the league, right?
Yeah, again, I love it. And the reason why I said the most is because a lot of them, while are more fierce in their time zones, not a lot of them are across the country. Like a lot of them are, or you say it doesn't matter, forget Indiana and Chicago. It's big in Portland. It's big in San Diego. So all of those things are big. And like you said, those two individuals have come into the sport and again have shown eyes to a lot of different people. Shout out to Asia Wilson, who's dominant, who's on her way to GOAT status. So let's not disrespect any of the GOATs of the game. But yeah, it's just, again, it's on news sites. Like what? Like it's crazy now.
Yeah, I agree. We will probably talk more about that because we do have, I believe there's a couple of games going on in the WNBA. I actually have not checked the schedule today, but something that everybody's going to be looking forward to tomorrow night is one of the biggest hockey games in recent memory. We've got Oilers-Panthers, Game 7. Did you think we'd be here a week ago? Florida dominating the series 3-0, and now the Oiler girl, the Oiler fan who has, again, we talk about the power of social media now, doing cover shoots for Playboy. I mean, come on. I got to take about that in a little bit, but let's just focus on the ice for now. Game 7, and all of a sudden, Edmonton, they have gone from getting dominated in the first 3 games to they are now dominating these last 3 games. 8-1 in Game 4. You think, all right, they didn't want to get swept at home. Then they go on the road and win by 2, and then they destroy Florida again in Game 6, 5-1. And, hockey, not the most popular sport, not compared to the NFL, not compared to the NBA. But I don't know how anybody on a Monday night in June where basketball is long done and the NBA playoffs, and I'm a huge NBA fan, they were pretty damn boring and pretty damn disappointing that the conference finals and the NBA finals, we didn't get a Game 6. Didn't even get a Game 6, and most of the games were blowouts. So I don't know even if you're the most casual hockey fan, how you are not tuned in and locked and fired up for this game tomorrow night. Forget betting-wise. I mean, we'll talk about it, but I can't believe we're here. You've got the best player in hockey attempting to lead his team from 0-3 down and become just the 5th team in NHL history to complete an 0-3 comeback. And, it's pretty rare that it's only been done 5 times. And, of course, the only other 0-3 comeback in professional sports in the USA was the Red Sox coming back to beat the Yankees. Sean, what are your thoughts on this series as we look forward to Game 7, no matter if you are a casual hockey fan or if you are the most diehard of hockey fans?
Well, one, we'll talk about the betting aspect in a little bit, but I don't know what to bet because I'm like, conventional wisdom goes out the window. All the stats that who's hot, who's not. Florida had this thing in the bag, and now I'm saying to myself, okay, they're favored in this. I know they're home. I know they're technically the better team, but Edmonton, better player, better this, better that. So I'm teetering. I may need you to convince me a little bit more later on who to actually bet on because, I know this is a betting show, so I shouldn't sound like that, but this is the most waffly I'll get when it comes to betting with these two teams because of what's going on in this series. But, my thought process is similar to other people's thought processes. Where does this rank in all-time collapses? Right? You mentioned the Red Sox and the Yankees, the 0-3 there. You mentioned the Falcons and the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. That's what I start thinking about. All-time choke jobs. So where would you rank this? I think the Red Sox Yankees will always be number 1, but this has to be number 2. I would even put this over Atlanta and New England. So that's what I'm thinking about in this series. Unbelievable. You have to watch, but it's top 5. I'm not sure where I want to rank it right now, and it might not happen. So maybe a moot point.
Yeah, now there's actually been 5 other teams that were up 3-0 and then went to a Game 7 and then held on to win. So we very could well see that in play tomorrow, especially because Florida does have home ice advantage. So, didn't mean much in Game 5, but you would think that this is their best chance out of these last 3 games now to go ahead and seal the deal and not complete the collapse. I do think you're right. Red Sox, Yankees, considering how baseball, how back and forth, how 50-50 it is, just from a betting standpoint and how each game is, even with momentum, so I don't know if anything will ever top that. You consider the rivalry that it was like the peak of Red Sox-Yankees rivalry. I'm not sure that's ever getting topped. I hard disagree that it's a bigger collapse, a bigger choke job than the Falcons blowing a 28-3 lead to the Patriots. I mean, that's going to go down as one of the biggest collapses of all time across any sport. I would put that right behind Yankees, Red Sox. I know it's not a series. It's not a best of 7. They didn't have to win 4 games in a row. But the fact that they led 28-3 at halftime, early third quarter, 28-3 lead, and you found a way to lose. That is unforgivable. I don't think I can put that if the Oilers win Game 7. I don't think I can put that above it. But that's a good point you make. You don't know what to bet. I mean, most people probably don't know what to bet because up 3-0, you're like, all right, the Oilers are dead. Maybe you bet them in Game 4 just because you thought that they were going to protect the ice. But then after that, you're like, all right, back to Panthers for Game 5. Then they lose, and you're like, okay, well, it's hockey. Home ice in these playoffs haven't really mattered because I think the away team has won 55% of the games. So it's like, all right, maybe the Panthers aren't going to lose 3 in a row. And then they get crushed again. And now you're like stuck in that influx where we are as bettors sometimes, especially in playoff series, where you're like, now my head's in a blender. I don't know who to pick. Do I go with the best player in hockey? Do I go with the best defense in hockey? Do I go with home ice advantage? So we'll dive more into it later on in this show. I will say this. We've now got 4 straight overs. 4 straight games that have gone over the total, and the over-under is 5.5. So if you like to ride with the trends, that is a trend that you could ride with. We've got plenty to do today here on this show. We're going to talk a little basketball because the biggest news of the week, we had a big trade that went on with a team that's an NBA Finals contender, but of course, everybody and their mother has an opinion on J.J. Redick as the new head coach of the Lakers. So we will talk about that next, what it means for the Lakers. Could this be one of the worst hires of all time? Could it be one of the best? And does it actually move the needle for LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and the Lakers? We'll talk about that next. We're just getting going. Sean Bell is in for Sean Marash. I'm Pat Boyle. This is BetQL 5-Star Weekend presented by BetMGM.
BetQL 5-Star Weekend will be back on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
By BetMGM.
Baseball is winning on the BetQL Network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of -2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've
gonna
looked at
say.
this over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Baseball is winning on the BetQL Network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of -2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've
gonna
looked at this
say.
over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Baseball is winning on the BetQL network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of -2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've
gonna
looked at
say.
this over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL network. Presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best data.
BetQL network. Presented by BetMGM.
Yes, sir. We're just getting underway here on BetQL 5-Star Weekend. I'm Pat Boyle. Sean Marash is out. We've got Sean Bell in. You can watch us on twitch.tv/ I believe it's BetQL. So there's other ways to consume. If you're in the car, you're getting ready to go to breakfast, you're getting home from maybe some early shopping, whatever you're doing. If you still can't listen in the car, well, that's no worries. You can download the free Odyssey app and listen to us. Just search BetQL Network. Or like I said, you want to watch us, two handsome guys. The handsome level has increased now that Sean Marash is out, so you can watch us on twitch.tv/BetQL. All right, we open the show with hot cakes and hot takes, as always. My bet is in a little bit of early peril. I'm going with some tennis. My guy Musetti lost the first two games, so that's not great. But hey, it's not how you start; it's how you finish. Sean gave you that the Chicago Sky Indiana Fever is one of the best rivalries, if not the best rivalry right now in sports. And then we talked a little puck, a little Game 7. We will do more on the Oilers and Panthers, but let's focus to basketball, Sean, because the big news of the week, obviously, after we got the rope-a-dope of Dan Hurley thrown into the mix, which was a whole story of its own for about a week, whether or not he was going to take the Lakers job and leave UConn. He ends up staying. Now then it went back to the original prime suspect. J.J. Redick is indeed the new Lakers head coach, 4-year contract. And it feels like overwhelmingly to me, everybody thinks that this move is going to be a failure, that J.J. Redick has, I guess, kind of been a figure that draws a lot of ire out of a lot of people. You know, he's kind of condescending with his NBA analysis, the whole thing that he got into on TV, what was that, about a year and a half, 2 years ago now, calling Bob Cousy and the guys that played in the 60s and 70s plumbers and that they would never be able to compete in today's NBA. And now him and LeBron on their podcast drinking wine and whatever the hell they talk about. I don't listen to it. So now he's the head coach, and he's going to coach LeBron. He's going to coach AD, and a team that has the star power for sure. But as we've seen the last 2 years, a very, very limited ceiling. I think it was an unbelievable run by them 2 years ago, including the job by Darvin Ham to get them to the Western Conference Finals. Ultimately, they didn't sniff a game against Denver, and then they met their match again, the same Denver Nuggets team, in the first round this year. And Darvin Ham becomes the scapegoat. So now it's J.J. Redick, who's got no coaching experience, who was a good player, sure, not an all-star, not an elite top 20 player in the game at any point in his career, but a good player. He's been on TV, he's been analyst, gets the NBA broadcasting job. I find it funny. They let go of Jeff Van Gundy because they were worried about him coaching. They hire Doc Rivers, who then takes a coaching job, and J.J. Redick, who then takes a coaching job. But it just seems like everybody wants this to fail. And I got to be honest, sort of like an additional hot take for me here out of the first hour. I'm almost kind of rooting for J.J. Redick to do well. I'm not in love with J.J. Redick by any stretch of the imagination. I get all the criticisms of him, the podcasting with LeBron, sounding like he's smarter than everybody else, calling guys that played 40, 50 years ago plumbers. No coaching experience. Sam Cassell, world of coaching experience. He probably could have been a good candidate to get the head coaching job. But it's almost to the point where it's like, everybody's saying, oh, well, I'm a podcaster, so I'm certified to be an NBA head coach now too. Like the guy the guy's an analyst. The guy's breaking down the game, as condescending as he could come off. He knows the game. He played the game for, 15 years? So it's not like they're hiring some Joe Schmo off the street who's just some NBA podcaster and now has a job. I got to be honest. I've been pushed to the extreme now by all the conversation, all the chatter that I'm hearing and that I'm seeing. I almost kind of want JJ Redick to do well. And I think that, yes, the Lakers aren't going to be a championship team. Nothing has really changed on this roster. There's nothing that Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss can really do this offseason to bring in somebody that's going to move the needle to where the Lakers become a first-round, fringe second-round team to all of a sudden a championship contender. So what should be the expectations here for JJ Redick and the Lakers, Sean? And what are your thoughts on the move by LA?
Listen, I really like JJ Redick. I think JJ Redick is going to be a great head coach one day. It's just not going to be with the Lakers. I think he's going to be very similar to Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd came, and again, Jason Kidd, far better player, I know that, Hall of Famer. But Jason Kidd came into the scene, did a pretty good job with Milwaukee, but it wasn't good enough. He didn't have the coaching experience. A couple years later, you speed it up. Now he's in the NBA Finals with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. So I think he's going to have the same type of head coaching career. You know, guys have to learn the head coaching ways. Like, he knows all the basketball. He knows all the X and O's. But the problem he's going to have is dealing with egos, like Phil Jackson has to deal with egos. Like, head coaches have to learn how to deal with egos, deal with players. Hey, read this book. Hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make sure, even though you're playing 2 minutes today, you are prepared to play 25 minutes tomorrow. Like, he needs to learn those intricate things from the head coaching perspective that there's no way he can learn until he's at least an assistant coach. So, and then you add on the fact it's a Laker gig. So you got to win right away. I know LeBron opt out and all that stuff, but LeBron's going to stay a Laker. If you don't win right away with LeBron, again, LeBron has how many years left to play? You know what I mean? 2 or 3? You got to win right now. If you don't win right now, you're going to be out of here. So it's going to be tough for JJ to figure out how to win right now. And like you said, they ain't got a roster to win right now anyway. Do I think they can get there? Potentially, right? Paul George, DeMar DeRozan. There's some guys out there that they're actually going to try to go get. Whether they can get them, I don't know. But there's some guys out there they can go get who have California connections, who want to play in California, right? So it'll be the Clippers, the Lakers, or the Golden State Warriors. But I do like JJ Redick as a basketball mind. It depends on how well he does, depends on his assistant coaches, who else he brings in that can handle some of those things that he's never encountered before. But I just don't think it's going to be a stop that he stays at for 5-6 years, wins a championship, or does anything like that. I think this is going to be a learning stop, like Jason Kidd had a learning stop, and then he can go somewhere else and be a really good head coach.
How much say do we think LeBron really had on this? Because we know they do the podcast. We know they're friends. It seems like it's, the GM, if you will. It's LeBron's choice. He probably definitely had a decent amount of say. He's LeBron James. Like, we're kidding ourselves if we think that he was totally out of these discussions and conversations with Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss. But then we get the reports that, it wasn't LeBron. LeBron said he had no say in hiring him. And then we see reports that maybe it was Anthony Davis that was pushing to hire JJ Redick. Do you buy any of that? Like, I know the GM gets tossed around. Who are we kidding if we don't think LeBron James had a conversation with Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss saying, hey, I'd really like if JJ Redick was the head coach. I think he knows the game. I think he could fit in well here.
LeBron's lying. I mean, we know that. I mean, let's keep it real. Like, he'll lie about the book he reads. He'll lie about the television show. He'll lie about knowing certain rap lyrics. Like, he lies. You know what I mean? Like, he lies to protect his image. And again, I get it. So I think LeBron's a great player and a great person, but he lies. He tells those fibs. So no, he's not telling the truth. He had something to say, and they went to him and they said, okay, got his stamp of approval. You have to get the superstar stamp of approval in today's NBA sports in order to hire a head coach, especially if it's LeBron James. So LeBron definitely gave the go-ahead, and then they hired JJ Redick. They had the podcast. You know, they spoke about it. You know, they had conversations about it. You know, JJ Redick asked, hey, are you staying? I'm not taking this job if you bouncing. Right? Like, JJ's not taking that job if LeBron James is leaving after opting out. He had to get that insurance. So once he got that insurance, JJ was like, all right, I'll take it.
Yeah, and I just want to ask you 2 more questions. We can talk about Bronny in a moment, but Yeah, I know you mentioned the comparison that you think JJ Redick's going to be a good head coach, kind of going to have the coaching arc that Jason Kidd has, which again just went to the NBA Finals. So Jason Kidd, pretty damn good coaching job throughout most of the postseason. And he got crushed a little bit for his moves in the first couple of games against Boston. I mean, ultimately, I don't really think there was a whole lot that Jason Kidd could have done as a coach to really affect the outcome of that series. But let's kind of draw more of a direct comparison. And not in terms of the playing career, Steve Nash, also another Hall of Famer, but in terms of the position he was thrown into, no coaching experience, and then thrown into a job with the Brooklyn Nets, with Kyrie Irving, with Kevin Durant, and with James Harden, and it couldn't have gone worse. It could not have failed more miserably. Do you think that JJ Redick's tenure, no matter how long you think it lasts, it's got to turn out better than Steve Nash with the Nets, right? It has to.
No, it definitely has to turn out better. It definitely has to turn out better because Steve Nash got thrown into a situation that was toxic. I mean, Kyrie Irving talked about his mindset before he got to Dallas anyway. He talked about his mindset and not being, especially when he was in Boston, like it wasn't right there. Like those guys weren't ready to play correctly. Even before Steve Nash got the job and when Steve Nash got the job, those guys were saying they don't need a head coach. Kyrie was like, we don't need a head coach. We can head coach this thing ourselves. Like, Kyrie, what the hell are you talking about, dog? Like, why would you say that even if you believe that? So, Steve, they're not. JJ Redick has too good of a relationship with those guys for those guys to ever do that to him. So, yeah, I disagree.
It's not like if Anthony Davis says, all right, I want out. Well, where's Anthony Davis going? You know what I'm saying? And what is LeBron going to do? LeBron's going to say, I want out and demand a trade from the Lakers in mid-season. Again, especially with the player option, we don't know what's going to happen with him. I think we have an idea. Like you said, I don't think JJ Redick's taking this job if LeBron said, you know what, I'm going to opt out. I'm going to try free agency. I'm actually going to go somewhere else here. But the one thing, do you think this makes it more of a chance or less likely? More likely or less likely now that JJ Redick's the coach? Do you think they draft Bronny?
No. Let me ask you this. And I'm petty, right? So I want to see if you have the same pettiness level as me. What I would do if I was a team, in the first round, I'm drafting Bronny. And I'm going to say, hey, LeBron, you want to come over here? If not LA, you got to give me a whole lot of trade assets. So in order to get your boy, literally your boy, would you do that? Like, let's say you had I don't know, You're a good team. You made the playoffs, but you ain't the best team. So let's say you have the 20th pick in the draft. Would you play that petty move, or would you say, nah, I got to draft somebody that's going to help this team?
I don't think as a GM, I don't think I'm risking my job to take a flyer on Bronny. And again, battled a lot of adversity, the cardiac arrest back in the summer. We didn't know if he was going to even play or not this past season for USC. So again, I'm not taking away anything from him in that. But when he did step on the floor, wasn't very good. He was pretty mediocre, didn't get to play a lot on a team that also wasn't very good. So if I'm like, the Raptors, Cavs, Pelicans, those teams you mentioned that are picking 19, 20, 21, am I going to not necessarily waste, but am I going to use a first-round draft pick when I've got needs of my own just to be petty and take a flyer on LeBron's kid, who I don't even know if he has a future as an NBA starter right now? I'm not doing it. As much as petty as I'd like to be, I can't do that, bro. But it seems like you would make that move.
I'm King Petty, so I would definitely make that move. Even if I know he's not going to play for me, I'm going to make that move and be petty on LeBron and make sure he don't get what he wants and try to get some trade value out of it. That's just me. Petty. All
right, real quick, we also had a big trade go on the last couple of days here. The Oklahoma City Thunder came up short in the second round as the number 1 seed, losing to Dallas. They go ahead and they make a big defensive move. They trade for Alex Caruso, one of the best defenders, best on-ball point guard defenders in the game, and they give away Josh Giddey. All the controversy that ran around Giddey, the investigation that went on ultimately absolved him of anything. He ended up playing. Not a huge impact player, though. Did not have a big of a role as we thought he might have, after we saw his rookie year and his first 2 years in OKC. They now give him to Chicago. They bring in Alex Caruso. Obviously, they want to become a more defensive-minded team. Take away some of those defensive responsibilities from Jalen Williams and SGA and give that to Alex Caruso. Do you like this trade for OKC? And do you think that Chicago gets any better by getting Josh Giddey here? The Thunder led the NBA, by the way, in steals per game. So in that aspect, they were great. And now they're going to get even better. And they were also second with 6.5 blocks. So they do have a defensive identity somewhat. Now they've even gotten more defensive-minded, bringing in Caruso. You like this trade for both sides, and what do you make of it?
Only one side. Listen, Chicago's the king of dumb. Like, they just do dumb things over there in Chicago for no reason. Why? You had a chance to trade DeMar DeRozan before this season. Now he gets to go wherever he wants. You had a chance to trade Alex Caruso for more than this, and now you do it? What's the point of that? And you're getting a guy in Giddey who, okay, like he was a liability for the Oklahoma City Thunder last season in the playoffs because he couldn't shoot. And now you're giving Alex Caruso, a great defender and a guy who can hit knockdown threes on the side of SGA, a chance to go and make that team better and actually potentially win a championship out in the West. So great trade for the Thunder.
Yeah, I just, again, maybe Chicago, like with Lonzo Ball, you got to feel for Chicago. They need a point guard. So I think they're going to hope that Giddey becomes their go-to point guard for them and can run it, especially with the future completely unknown right now for Lonzo Ball. So we'll talk a little bit more about some of the, who can stop the Boston Celtics. Two guys that, in some sense, gunning for comeback player of the year in terms of they didn't play a whole lot this year, didn't play in the playoffs, plus NFL comeback player of the year odds. We'll visit those next. It's BetQL 5-Star Weekend presented by BetMGM.
5-Star Weekend will be back on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
Daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Baseball is winning on the BetQL Network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of -2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've
gonna
looked at
say.
this over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Baseball is winning on the BetQL network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of -2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've
gonna
looked at
say.
this over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL network. Presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL network, presented by BetMGM.
Welcome back to BetQL 5-Star Weekend on the BetQL network. Presented by BetMGM.
That's right. It's a good Sunday. It's a hot Sunday morning, a steamy Sunday morning around most of North America here and the U.S., but we're nice and cozy here inside. Hopefully, again, I said it before, not a day for the AC to stop working. It's Pat Boyle. Sean Bell is in for Sean Marash. This is BetQL 5-Star Weekend. Sean, let's just finish up the conversation we were having here last segment. We talked about J.J. Redick going to the Lakers. We talked about the trade where the Oklahoma City Thunder acquire Alex Caruso, one of the best defenders in the game. They get even more defensive-minded, and they send Josh Giddey to the Chicago Bulls, who are in desperate need of a point guard. And, who knows what the Bulls are going to look like if DeMar DeRozan walks, the future unknown for Zach LaVine. Let's talk about a team that is certainly a contender in the Eastern Conference that came up short again this past season. That's the Philadelphia 76ers. Speaking of Zach LaVine, we know that, he was basically requesting a trade, trade talks the entire beginning of the season and last offseason with Chicago. Then he gets hurt again with the foot, barely plays last year, this past season. But the 76ers are reportedly out on him, and they're also reportedly out on Paul George. So we know the Sixers need to add somebody to Joel Embiid, one of the best players in the game. Who is it going to be? Who is the primary offseason target for the Philadelphia 76ers? If they're out on Paul George, they're out on Zach LaVine. Is it DeMar DeRozan? There ain't many other guys left. This ain't like a cream of the crop NBA offseason here with free agency. Who do you think the Sixers can try to bring in here to pair with Embiid to make them, and of course, Tyrese Maxey, to make them a viable championship contender? Because otherwise, if it's not them, I'm a big Knicks fan. I like my Knicks chances if they can stay healthy. But even then, it just seems like there is a big gap right now between Boston and everybody else. So Philly's got to do something to shorten that gap.
Well, for me, the theme of the show, for me at least, is lying. They're lying. Listen, Paul George and Zach LaVine didn't want to come to Philadelphia. Point blank, period. That's the reason why they If they wanted to come to Philadelphia, if they had real interest, they would still be kicking down that door, kicking down those tires, but they don't. Zach LaVine and Paul George, listen, it would be a great basketball fit. They're from the West Coast. Paul George got a whole family out in Cali. He's from Cali. He's not leaving California. Zach LaVine is from Washington. He wants to go back to the West Coast. Those West Coast guys want to stay in the West Coast. All right? Ask Kendrick Lamar after what he did to Drake. West Coast sticks together, okay? So that's what's going on here. Those guys want to go out west. And DeMar DeRozan, I think, is going to be the same thing. We talked about the Lakers earlier. I wouldn't be surprised if DeMar DeRozan tries to head to the Lakers. All right, finish his career out back home, basically. That would be the fit that makes sense for the Lakers, to add in another guy who can get his own bucket and score 20 points a game still later on in his career. So I think it's going to be tough for the Sixers, because I think a lot of the guys that are available don't want to go there. Like I said, they want to go to other locations. They want to go back home, so to speak, and play where they grew up at. So it's going to be tough for them. Even I said Pascal Siakam before the offseason began would be a great fit, and someone I heard they were going to sort of look at to see if he wanted to go, but obviously he signs a max contract with the Indiana Pacers. So I don't think they're going to be able to get a superstar via free agency. It's going to be a whole lot of role players, because I don't think any of the stars are going to want to go there.
Yeah, I mean, and look at the stars that they've had in the past, as the 1A to Embiid before Tyrese Maxey really developed into one of the best players in basketball, and an all-star season he had last year. But it's still, even if Embiid stays healthy, which is a question mark every single spring, and Maxey continues to get better and plays at an all-star level, it just still doesn't feel like you can actually say with confidence, yeah, the Sixers can win the Eastern Conference. They can get past Boston. They can get past the Knicks. They can get past Indiana, who have, like you said, locked up Pascal Siakam, Halliburton. They've got a loaded squad as well. So it's a very deep middle of the Eastern Conference, and everybody's gunning for the crown, which is the Boston Celtics. We saw it fail miserably with Ben Simmons. We saw it didn't work with James Harden. We saw that it did not work with Jimmy Butler the first go-around. Is there a chance the Sixers bring back Jimmy Butler with the Miami Heat kind of in limbo of where their franchise is headed? Is that a big trade you think Daryl Morey might go down the avenue of trying to bring back Jimmy Butler?
I think he'll ask. I think the Jimmy Butler Miami Heat beef is overdone. I think Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat have a relationship where they yell at each other, they curse at each other, and then the next day, like we saw him and Udonis Haslem last year, cursing at each other on the sideline, and then he said the next day they were drinking coffee together and kicking it. Like, that's just what they do. So I don't think it's as big as a rift, and I don't think Jimmy Butler is going to necessarily go anywhere. Let me ask you, as a Knick, it feels like they need something. I that stopped them this year, but it still feels like they need something to go to that next level. I know a lot of Knicks fans are they waver on Julius Randle because he's had some playoffs, let's say, bumps in the road. What do you think the Knicks need to do to jump into this conversation to reach the Boston Celtics? Because they seem like they got the nucleus, and they got the chemistry, and they got the coach, but it feels like one thing is missing.
Yeah, it's a 3-point shooter, and it's a center that can give you something offensively. So let me just start off by saying I love Julius Randle. I'm a big Julius Randle defender, at times to a fault in the past. I think you look back at the first time the Knicks made the playoffs since the Melo season of 2013. They went up against the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young came in and just obliterated New York City. You still hear F Trae Young chants to this day, and you might hear them for the rest of eternity. That's how much he decimated the city of New York. But you look at that team, Julius Randle was doing it with nobody. You look back, Elfrid Payton, shot Derrick Rose. I think the criticism from the first playoff run that Julius Randle led the Knicks to was unfair. Now, 2 years ago when they lost to the Miami Heat in the second round, I think it was valid. I think it was fair. I think he underperformed. So did Jalen Brunson. So did most of the Knicks in that series. They were not ready for that kind of defensive gauntlet battle that the Miami Heat presented. And Spoelstra's one of the best coaches in the NBA. He outcoached Tibbs. It was just a bad series. It was a bad matchup for the Knicks. This past year, I thought it was a good matchup. I know Indiana is so fast. They play so well offensively. I thought if the Knicks were healthy, they were winning that series in 6. And the excuses can only go so far, but when Randall's got a dislocated shoulder and he's out for the season, Brunson breaks his hand as the cherry on top in the last game in the third quarter. OG Anunoby pulls the hamstring, couldn't even run when he then tried to play after missing a few games, and Josh Hart was banged up, Isaiah Hartenstein was banged up. It was literally like the movie 300, where the Knicks had just ran out of bodies. So I think to a large extent, it's run it back, and I do think that if the Knicks are healthy, they can compete. They can beat the Boston Celtics. I was saying it for weeks here on BetQL, and I ultimately never got the opportunity to see the Knicks play the Celtics. But I like Julius Randle. I don't think he's going anywhere, and I think any kind of trade talks were shut down at the beginning of this offseason. He's going to be coming back with a lot of motivation, a lot of firepower, and the Knicks need him. There is no scenario. I've heard of Mikal Bridges trades. I've heard of other trades that involve Julius Randle going elsewhere. Really, the only one that ever makes sense for the Knicks is if they trade Julius Randle and some allotment of first-round draft picks, which they have a lot of, to bring in Devin Booker. That's the only way I think the Knicks' ceiling really gets higher if you're subtracting Julius Randle from this team, is if you bring in somebody like Devin Booker, and I don't think that trade's going to happen. So for me, Julius Randle's coming back. The big thing is they've got to re-sign OG Anunoby, because it's not a given fact that he's coming back. I've seen reports that he's not necessarily happy with the first offer. Now, let me say this. OG Anunoby's agent is Leon Rose's son, who is the president of the New York Knicks. So you got a lot of family ties. I think they will find a way to work it out. So like I said, I think OG Anunoby's coming back. The big thing is, what do the Knicks do at the center position? That is where I think they can really get on Boston's level. Because you got Mitchell Robinson, who I'm now seeing in the last couple of days, trade talks. The Knicks are interested in possibly trading Mitchell Robinson, who is a defensive stud, a fantastic rim protector, shut down Joel Embiid for most of that series against Philadelphia. Then he got hurt, came back, and played a really great defensive role before ultimately getting hurt again. The big thing is, does Isaiah Hartenstein come back to the Knicks? He was the guy that filled in admirably for them. He is much better offensively than Mitchell Robinson. He is a great passer. He's got that little left-handed floater that you saw numerous times throughout the playoffs. But for me, the Knicks need a center that can shoot from outside. You look at what the Celtics did with Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, they were running sets where it's 5 on the perimeter. It's the most modernized version of the NBA. And the Indiana Pacers are the same way. Miles Turner, you need bigs that can shoot from 3. You have to be able to do that. And at so many times, injuries aside, the Knicks were just limited in what they could do offensively. So the big thing I'm looking to do, we just saw a trade with the Chicago Bulls. I'd want to bring in somebody like Nikola Vucevic, who we know can shoot threes. Yes, he's getting older. He's not as good defensively as he was in his time with Orlando, and he's had a little bit of a drop-off with Chicago, but I think he could thrive in the Knicks offense. But yeah, for the most part, Sean, it's run it back for the Knicks and make some minor adjustments, some minor changes. I think upgrading the center position. I would let Isaiah Hartenstein walk. I don't think it's worth paying him and Mitchell Robinson a combined $35 million a year. So that's my take on it. But that's, again, everybody's chasing Boston, dude, and the Celtics aren't getting any worse. If anything, they're only getting better. So it's tough in the East, bro. I know you cover the Sixers, and I'm a diehard Knicks fan. It's tough for teams to be chasing Boston. It might just be Indiana. If they can take another step forward, they might be the biggest contender in the Eastern Conference.
Listen, with Kristaps Porzingis wasn't even healthy during that playoff run at all. Like, if he was healthy, it would have been an even more dominant run. It might have been a 4-0 sweep on the Mavericks if Kristaps was all the way healthy and all the way right. It wouldn't have even been close. So I think the Boston Celtics can reach another level if they can find health with Kristaps and their entire squad. And the only team that we didn't mention who's supposed to be up there is Milwaukee, and they got Doc Rivers. And as long as they got Doc Rivers, I ain't giving them a chance.
I mean, how can you ever forgive them for that trade? Drew Holiday to Boston and bringing in Dame. I mean, come on. It literally gifted Boston a championship. All right, we'll move on to some football. We got to talk about we've been revisiting the big futures markets for the big awards this offseason as we creep closer and closer to the NFL season. We'll take a look at NFL Comeback of the Year voting. Plus, the Patriots are giving how much money to Ramondre Stevenson? I thought we weren't paying running backs, but I guess they are doing that. We'll talk about that next. Plus another top-of-the-hour hot takes and hot cakes. It's Pat Boyle and Sean Bell, BetQL 5-Star Weekend.
BetQL 5-Star Weekend will be back on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM. Welcome back to BetQL 5-Star Weekend on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
That's right. Hour number 2 here of our 3-hour program. 9 a.m. Eastern to 12 p.m. Eastern. Finish up at 9 a.m. Pacific. 1 hour in the books. 2 hours to go. It's Pat Boyle. We got Sean Bell in for Sean Marash here. We've hit on a lot here in the first hour. I got a tennis bet that is not tracking well, so we need a comeback here for the Italian Lorenzo Musetti in the grass tournament in London. And we've also hit on the big NBA news of the week. J.J. Redick to the Lakers, the trade Alex Caruso to the Thunder for Josh Giddey, plus the 76ers plans, the Knicks plans. What can the Eastern Conference contenders do to try to stop the Boston Celtics? Doesn't seem like there's a whole lot. I think you just got to hope for a regression from Boston next year. Maybe, again, you're not rooting for injuries, but it seems like that's the only way that teams have a chance to stop Boston next year. We still coming up this hour. We'll take a look at some of the MLB futures markets. We'll do one of the best segments of the show, Dingbat, where we each pick 3 home run hitters for the day and try to hit you one. We got the Grand Slam jackpot promotion going on for BetMGM. We'll tell you about that. And some football news coming up here in just a couple of minutes. But as we start every hour of this show, you either got to bet or you got to take that you got to fire off. Hot takes and hot cakes.
Good morning, people. Boy, do I need some hot takes and hot cakes.
Yeah, so I've got a take that I want to get to in just a bit. So, again, it's a 2-parter for me. But first, I do have another bet for you. And, again, I'm big into the niche sports. I played soccer in high school. I'm a big tennis fan. So we told you about the tennis bet that we're hoping for a comeback with. But with soccer, we got the European Championships going on. And this is a huge day for Team USA. The Copa America has been going on for a couple of days now, hosted by our country, the USA. And for any of you that follow soccer, again, Copa America is usually for the South American countries, but every year, since there's only 10 of them, they invite a handful of teams from North America, and USA being one of the best teams in North America. We're hosting, and the USA plays Bolivia tonight. USA, pretty big favorites. I tell you what, like any soccer fan that they don't win this game tonight against Bolivia, you're going to hear about it. It's going to be a miserable Monday for any USA soccer fans. They should win this game going away. And we have USA. And if you're listening in Canada, oh well. We have USA the 5th highest odds, or the 5th best odds to win this tournament. So, behind Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, Colombia, USA, we're right in the thick of things. We're right in the mix. So that's 6 p.m. Eastern tonight, I believe. That's going to be a big one. Hopefully it starts with the win against Bolivia. But I'm going to the Euros. Germany, who has looked one of the best teams in this tournament, playing Switzerland today. Top 2 teams in that group. So Germany, I don't think this is a game they're going to take lightly, because there is a chance that they play one of the best teams in the tournament, depending on how the bracket shakes out, if they were to lose this game against Switzerland. So they want to lock things up. They want to win the group. They want to keep the momentum rolling. They're a minus 145 favorite on the money line on BetMGM. And I'm rolling with the hosts. I'm rolling with the Germans here. I just think they have way too much firepower. Plus, I think they have defended very, very well so far in their first 2 games, albeit against Scotland and Hungary, 2 teams that aren't necessarily that good. But I think you're getting Germany, a little bit of juice on the money line here. They're an overall better team than Switzerland. Switzerland is a team that's got, some firepower. They've got a decent defense. Overall, they're a very decently balanced team. They just, I don't think they have enough to keep up with Germany. So I'm going to take the hosts. I'm going to take them on the money line, minus 145. I think they win the game. They win Group A. They have looked like one of the best teams in this competition so far. So how about that, Sean? That's a glimpse of what it's like working with me. You got a tennis bet and a soccer bet to start the first 2 hours here. We got to get creative on a day where it's, now that there's no more NBA, we're waiting for tomorrow night for the Stanley Cup Game 7. We're still waiting. We're a couple months out from football. So that's how I'm starting hour 2. Give me the Germans.
Okay. Hey, USA, y'all better step up. That's all I got to say. All right, because this is your time to shine. I'm ready to check out on USA Soccer all together. I'm gonna be honest with you, right? Like, it's just they've been disappointing for my entire life. It feels like they had a stretch, Landon Donovan and those guys, but it's just like, come on, at some point, you got to take us to the next level. Since you gave the cake, let me give another take. I am gonna have some cake later on in the show, but let me give another take, and this is a take that I am on an island. Like, you know that meme on Twitter where it says, what take do you have that have everybody like this? So with the knives to the guy's throat.
Yes.
Here's my take. Running backs are more important than wide receivers. That is my take, and here's why. You can find a wide receiver anywhere. It is so easy to find a great wide receiver nowadays. Like, I'm talking about an elite wide receiver. They're everywhere. You can get a Puka Nacua every single year. So instead of paying them, in my opinion, contracts at the end of their first rookie contract, $40 million a year, $30 million a year, $40 million a year, wherever it's going to go to, I would just say, nah, I'm going to let you leave, and I'm going to get the next great wide receivers. Because if I say, hey, name great wide receivers, you'll be able to name a good 17, 18 just great wide receivers off the top of your head. Like, not good ones, but great ones. But if I say name a great running back, a difference-making great running back, how many are you going to name? Right? Like, you're going to name like 5? Then I'm not talking about good running backs. I'm not talking about a running back that's interchangeable. I'm talking about if you can find a running back that you say, hey, this guy does it all. He can catch it out the backfield. He can block. He can run up the middle. He can bounce it to the outside. He has explosive speed. He can do all. There's only like 4 or 5 of those in the entire NFL, in my opinion. Right? So if you find one of those, that's why when people were saying about the 49ers when they traded for Christian McCaffrey and was like, that's too much. Like, it wasn't enough. And you saw what he did for that team. I think Saquon Barkley is going to have the same effect for the Philadelphia Eagles. There's only a handful of elite running backs in the league, but there's so many elite wide receivers because, again, the game is for the wide receivers nowadays. So that allows for wide receiver talent just to be great, just to get catches. The league allows wide receivers to get away with things. So in order to get a great wide receiver, you just go, all right, he's pretty good. He can step in. He can catch the ball. And if I have a great quarterback, they're going to make it work anyway. All right, C.J. Stroud's going to make it work with a whole bunch of guys. Patty Mahomes is going to make it work with a whole bunch of guys. But there's not a lot of running backs that I go, oh, he's just a flat-out mismatch. Right? Like, this, again, Derrick Henry is a little bit older now, so you wouldn't say this, but of 5-star, there's 25-star wide receivers. I think there's only about 5-star running backs. So if you identify a running back that you feel is 5-star, to me, I say pay that man and pay him a lot. Now, don't pay him a long contract. I'm not saying 4 or 5 years, but pay him a 3-year contract that's worth $20 million a year. As opposed to a wide receiver who's getting way more that you can find in the draft, in my opinion, tomorrow. So I think 5-star running backs are more important than a 5-star wide receiver. And running backs, those type of running backs, let's be clear, are the ones that are underrated in this league and that should get paid.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I gotta disagree because I think there are a lot of great running backs that I think are hampered or that don't get the recognition they deserve because most of those teams don't have a good quarterback, which ultimately we know is the most important position in football, but also because a lot of those teams don't have good receivers. Like, just look, you mentioned Saquon Barkley. The Giants have not had a good wide receiver since Odell Beckham Jr., and even then, Odell, with the headaches that he caused in New York at more times, was a detriment. And we know the talent that he's got. And of course, you know, if Eli Manning wasn't at the end of his career, or if he had a good quarterback, if he had a better quarterback, and then he did have a great quarterback, had a great season with the Rams, and then tore his ACL, unfortunately, in the Super Bowl. But like, he would have been great. That Giants offense would have been great if they had a good quarterback, if they could. And then look what happened with Saquon Barkley. For the last couple of years, the Giants have not had a great wide receiver. And yes, say what you will about Daniel Jones. They did go to the playoffs 2 years ago. Saquon Barkley, a massive reason why. But Saquon Barkley, a lot of times, could not shine because the Giants did not have a good aerial game to then keep teams honest with. You know, you look at Nick Chubb the first couple of years in Cleveland. I think his value was diminished because they didn't have a good passing game. Whereas you look at the receivers in this game, and I think, you mentioned there's only about 4 or 5 5-star running backs. Like, I disagree. I think Kyron Williams is fantastic. Brees Hall, another one for the Jets. Now that they've got Aaron Rodgers and hopefully he stays healthy, and they got Garrett Wilson, I think Brees Hall could be that much better this year because the Jets finally have somebody they could throw the ball to rather than hoping that Brees Hall breaks off 5-6 yards of carry every time with a mediocre offensive line and no wide receivers. Look at what in Indianapolis, Jonathan Taylor. If they had a decent passing game, Jonathan Taylor, the numbers that he put up, like, he could have been even better. So I do think that there are more great running backs than I think you might be given credit for. But I do think that if you have a stud wide receiver, it makes things that much easier. And I do think with the way that the NFL is now, and I get it, running backs aren't getting paid. Do I necessarily agree with that? I don't know. It just feels like all of a sudden 5 years ago, teams said, well, we can win the Super Bowl with paying a running back $2 million a year, and most of the previous Super Bowl winners have that. You look at what Kansas City has done. San Francisco, even though they haven't won a Super Bowl, they're the outlier with we know what McCaffrey can do. But, if Derrick Henry was so great, and he is great, but why couldn't Tennessee do anything? They didn't have a good receiver. They had a middle-of-the-road quarterback. So I get what you're saying, and, you want to be able to pay running backs what they're worth. Well, to transition here, maybe the Patriots are trying to take that advantage. Maybe they are trying to value their running backs more because they just re-signed Ramondre Stevenson to a $36 million extension, which is kind of a little bit, it's a lot of money, more than I thought Ramondre Stevenson would get, especially for a Patriots team that is rebuilding. They're dishing out a decent amount of cash to their running back, to Ramondre Stevenson. So, Sean, you're standing up for your running backs. Do you think that this is worth it for Ramondre and the Patriots?
Yeah, I think it's always worth it if you sign a running back to a short-term deal, right? It can be a lot of money, but if it's a short-term deal, then to me it's a good bet. The problem is when they used to sign running backs to 4-year, 5 years deals, the Todd Gurley deals, and then that would fall flat because they would get injured pretty quickly. But if you think about what a good running back, because I think you named a lot of good running backs, but to me they weren't 5-star elite running backs. And that's what I continue to argue for. And I don't think obviously Ramondre Stevenson is a 5-star guy, but he's a good running back. But if a guy is going to get, again, here's me defending running backs again. If a guy is going to get you over 1,500 total yards a season, and that's what you expect when you give him that type of money. But if he's going to give you 1,500 total yards, if he's going to get you 20 touches a game, then hell yeah, he's worth that. You know what I mean? Like, just for that particular season, I would argue for running backs. For that particular season, yeah, you are worth $15 million a year or $15 million plus a year if you're going to have 20 touches a game and provide you over 1,500 total yards. So I think the running back market is getting better than it has over the last couple of years because teams are realizing that. They're just not signing them to long-term deals. And I think, again, I think it's harder to find in the draft the running back that fits your system as opposed to the wide receiver that fits your system. I think there's more wide receivers because the college is so open and you can easily identify it. You're like, all right, that wide receiver is good. He can come in and fit in this system easily. So I think you can easily replace that. I mean, and at the end of the day, I mean, you mentioned Saquon Barkley. If your quarterback and your offensive line suck, then none of it matters, especially your running back. But if you do have a good offensive line, then you could pay your running back a little bit and know that he's going to produce. But yeah, the Giants, they had the worst offensive line in the last 5 years I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that's I'm not going to argue with that at all. I just think if all things else equal, let's say you have two teams that have a decent offensive line, you have two teams that have a decent quarterback. What would you rather add? Would you rather add a top running back or would you rather add a top wide receiver? I'm always adding a top wide receiver just because I think it gives your offense that much higher of a ceiling. When you have a guy that can break off 50 yards at a clip, when you have a deep ball threat, when you have somebody that you know you can count on to get you a catch, to get you 5-6 yards, even on a little short route into the flat or something like that. Plus they have the big play ability. And I know, I know Saquon Barkley can rip off 50 yards at a clip. I know McCaffrey can rip off 50 yards on a clip just on handing the ball off to him. But all things else equal, I'm always taking the top wide receiver just because I think that the way that the NFL has gone, the way that you need to be able to score points to do that, I still think a wide receiver gets you more than a running back. But like you said, you're on an island.
Well, I think my yeah, I'm on the island. I think my argument is if you have Justin Jefferson and Christian McCaffrey, I'm drafting Christian McCaffrey because the gap between Christian and the next guy is bigger, is way bigger than Justin Jefferson and the next guy. And so that's my argument. The gap between the 10th wide receiver and the first wide receiver is small, as opposed to the running backs. I think it's big.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I do see where you're coming from on that angle. All right, when we come back, we still got to look at some NFL Comeback of the Year Futures Awards, and then we'll get a little bit into the Baseball Futures Awards as well. We got Dingback coming up in just over 20 minutes. It's Pat Boyle and Sean Bell. This is BetQL 5-Star Weekend, presented by BetMGM.
BetQL 5-Star Weekend will be back on the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM. Baseball is winning on the BetQL Network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up.
Welcome back to BetQL 5-Star Weekend on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
Is the case on a Sunday morning that you can that we can give you bets, that we can say what bets we're taking, that you can track throughout the show. Well, this is one of those cases. I gave a tennis bet out at the beginning of the show. It looked like it was going horribly. Lorenzo Musetti needed to cover the 3.5 game spread. Lost the first set 6-1, and the American Tommy Paul was serving for it. And lo and behold, we have life. How about Amir Tyree producing the show today in the chat? Musetti with the big break. That's right, Amir. We got life here on this bet. We have got some absolute life. So we'll keep you updated on that in case you decided to tail Musetti, trying to make it 6-5 to see if he can win the second set or go send it to a tiebreak. And Amir's a big tennis guy, so how about that? We'll see if, Amir, if you're producing the show next week, we will be knees deep in Wimbledon. So just a little, keeping you up here with the bets on the show. Before we get into some NFL comeback of the year futures market and some baseball futures market, I just got to say, because this has been something that's been on my mind here for the last couple of days. Sean Bell in for Sean Marash. Sean, did you happen to see the comments that Kelly Stafford, Matt Stafford's wife, made a few days ago on I think the podcast is Off the Vine? I know I was defending JJ Redick, but I mean, really, we just give too much attention to people with podcasts. We give way too much attention. So Kelly Stafford basically tells a story of how she won Matt Stafford, of how she secured him. I don't want to objectify either party here, but basically, look. There's games that we play in dating. There's games we play in love. And sometimes, you got to have a little jealousy. You got to make somebody else, your significant other, jealous. And Kelly Stafford basically said that, I don't know if she went into detail that her and Matt Stafford were hooking up or if they were dating and then they broke up. But she basically said that they were not together at the time. So she started dating, whatever you want to attach to dating, sleeping with. I can't imagine as somebody in college that you're dating somebody, you're not sleeping with them. So we'll leave that up to you to decide. But she started dating his backup quarterback to make him jealous. And she told the story about how the one day they lived in like the same complex or near the same complex, and he saw her car outside. So he gets into her car and he basically is like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "This guy's not right for you." And she goes, "What are you talking about? You can't tell me that." But it obviously made Matt jealous to the point where now they're together, happily married, we think, 4 kids. But what do you make Kelly Stafford's comments, bro? Why would it's one thing if you actually did this? I get it. We all play love games, bro. But it's another thing to, I just think, going on the record with this, saying, yeah, I started dating his backup quarterback, which, by the way, I thought at first was this guy Joe Cox, who ain't too sweet on the eyes, but a lot of people on Twitter maybe think it was Logan Gray, the third string, who was a freshman at the time. Matt Stafford's wife was also a freshman. Matt's 3 years older than her. If I can get behind that a little bit more. The guy Logan Gray, who, by the way, then transferred to Colorado and I think played wide receiver, and I don't know what he does now. Maybe works for J.P. Morgan or some 9-to-5 job. But still, what do you think? What do you make of Matt Stafford's wife, Kelly Stafford, going on and bringing this to light?
Listen, it's none of my business. It's none of nobody's business. Matt Stafford, I'm sure he knows. So, I don't know if he's happy with it or not happy with it. I'm going to mind my own business. I'll just say for me personally, I wouldn't want certain details of how I courted my wife out in the public. Let's just say that. For them is for them. But I just say for me is, there's certain things that I wouldn't want on these podcast streets.
Okay, and you're going to leave it at that?
I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. My angle that I take away is if it was this guy Joe Cox, and if you're not driving and you have the opportunity to do a quick Google, obviously stay tuned in with us here. Logan Gray, if that's the third string QB that year at Georgia versus Joe Cox, I can see how it made Matt jealous. If it's Joe Cox, I'm laughing. Like that's desperation season if you're going for Joe Cox. No offense. And Amir is telling us in the chat, Joe Cox actually coached at his high school. So how about that? Small world. But I mean, come on. Like, I just, again, it's one thing if you're doing it, because I get it. We all play love games. And if they're not dating and, maybe they had a little fling and then they're single and she says, you know what, I want Maddie back. I want him back. Let me sleep with his third string backup QB to get him jealous. Obviously it works. So you got to give her credit. And, and I'm not saying that she's got the status that she has because of Matt, but let's be honest, there definitely plays a role. So she definitely picked the right move. That's for damn sure. But I don't know how I would react if, I played Division III college baseball, so it's not like I played quarterback at Georgia. But if a girl that I had a fling with is sleeping with the dude that's on the end of the bench and then tells me that's not gonna make me want to be with you. I'm sorry.
I'm just for each his own. That's all I say. If you like it, I love it.
Okay, Sean, you are taking the high road with this one, and I give you credit for that. All right, let's talk. We can get back into the football in just a bit, but we do have to hit some baseball because we got Dingbat coming up. We'll each take a couple home run hitters. Kenny Henderson, brother of Gunner, is going to get into the mix with us and pick some home run hitters. That's coming up in about 15 minutes. But let's look at some MLB Futures Awards markets here because we're right about the halfway point in baseball, right? Most teams, a lot of teams have played about 79 to 80 games here. So, basically right at the halfway point. Let's start with the Cy Young because that's the graphic we got on the board here. If you're watching on Twitch, NL Cy Young Award winner Zach Wheeler is the favorite at plus 325. His teammate Ranger Suarez, how good that Phillies pitching staff has been, he is right there with him at plus 325. And then you got Tyler Glass now from the Dodgers at plus 375. How about Chris Sale? I did not think after the last couple of years of injuries and just not being able to stay healthy that Chris Sale would be fourth on this board, but he leads Major League Baseball in wins, picked up another one on Friday night against the Yanks. He has been fantastic, and we know that if he's healthy at this point, he's still got the talent. You got Corbin Burns in the American League. You got Corbin Burns coming off the Corbin Burns is on the Orioles, but Max Fried on the board there at plus 1,200. He had a horrible first month of the season. He's bounced back. Just running you through some of the favorites here. Sean, from the baseball you've consumed this year, do you have a guy that not even if you're betting on, but just considering, if you're considering a bet or if you do want to make a bet here at the halfway point of the season, which of these pitchers do you like? Which of them do you think can continue to have a great season?
I think this is, I know you never want to pick the lead guy, but still plus 325, still good money. Zach Wheeler. I mean, he's an absolutely – I'm here in Philadelphia. I've watched it. I covered it. He's been absolutely fantastic all season long. He's been the best pitcher in the NL. You can argue he's been the best pitcher in Major League Baseball, and he's done it before. The guy behind him, same team, the Philadelphia Phillies, Ranger Suarez, has had stretches where he's been dominant like you've seen before, but hasn't had an entire season where he's been just flat out great. He had one a couple years ago where he was great for most of the season, but he's also injury prone, so you can see him getting injured and missing a couple of games and that taking him out of the chance to win this award. But Zach Wheeler, he's been here before. He's been the guy to get all the innings. The Philadelphia Phillies, you've seen the amount of games that they've won, right? And they're going to continue. The Atlanta Braves can't catch up. Right? Great team, great franchise, but their best pitcher and their best hitter is gone, right? Out for the season. And so they're going to continue to stumble a little bit. The Dodgers don't have anybody that I would say, well, they do, but I don't think I'm going to give it to anybody with the Dodgers. So with the Philadelphia Phillies having the record they have, with Zach Wheeler pitching the way that he's pitched, he's had season-long stretches like this before. So I think it's going to be Zach Wheeler. Again, I know it's not sexy because he's in the lead, but still plus 325 is good. Chris Sale's at plus 700 is another good one. But if you say you got to put your money on one person, it's Zach Wheeler to me. Okay.
And I don't think it's so much. Tell me where you think about this. I don't think it's so much as like the MVP where you have two guys that are both crushing it, like Juan Soto or Aaron Judge. We'll talk about that in a bit. But I don't think it's the MVP where if you have two pitchers both in the same rotation crushing it, I don't think they necessarily cancel each other out. So I do think that if Wheeler continues to pitch as well as he has, it doesn't matter if Ranger Suarez is putting up, slightly less numbers. I still think Wheeler can win it. But I look at somebody like Max Fried, who I think has been a top pitcher in baseball before. I think there's good value on him. I'm not betting him, but, again, just if you're eyeing in on guys in the next couple of weeks, if you do want to place a futures bet here, that have to be considered. Plus 1,200 for a guy, again, you look at the horrible start he had to the season where he couldn't get anybody out in April. And now he's red hot, and we know he's got the pedigree. He's healthy. I think if Max Fried continues to pitch as well as he has, if we're in September, we're looking at, wow, remember that April that Max Fried has? He's been the best pitcher in the National League over the last 5 months. I think he definitely has a chance to win it. Some of the other guys, Shota Imanaga, now would be the time, I think, if you want to bet on the Cubs rookie sensation from Japan, now would be the time to do it because he's had a couple of starts now where he has just gotten lit up. The Mets lit him up the other day after he was untouchable for the first month. But if you think that he's due for a bounce back, now you're getting him at plus 3,000, where you certainly weren't getting that number just a couple of days ago. So I think he's worth taking a look at. Let's go to the American League if we can here. American League Cy Young Award futures market. Tarek Skubal, the young Tiger sensation that if the Tigers weren't terrible, and they're not that bad this year, but if they were a good team, would be getting a lot more of attention. Corbin Burns, the trade to Baltimore, has worked out phenomenally for them. He is right there, right behind Skubal, second in the AL Cy Young Award, and then everybody else is 4 digits. So, again, there's 2 guys that are plus 225 or lower. Everybody else is plus 4 digits or better. Tanner Houck, Garrett Crochet, the young stud for the White Sox, Logan Gilbert from Seattle, Cole Reagans, Luis Castillo. There is not a lot of proven names in the middle of that list there, Sean. Luis Heel for the Yankees was untouchable and then got lit up the last start. As a bit rocky, kind of a similar trajectory to Shota Imanaga for the Cubs. Who are you looking to bet on here in this market? Because Corbin Burns is probably the most proven of anybody, but he's got just such low odds. I mean, are you looking at one of these young, unproven names to continue with having dominant seasons?
No, Corbin Burns. Like, who are we kidding? Like, all these young cats and all of this is great, but you're gonna fumble. At some point, people are gonna figure out you're gonna have tough stretches. Like, I need someone who's proven to go through tough stretches before. Like, he's been here before. He's done this. He's dealt with June, July baseball. He's dealt with August baseball, and he's going to get through it perfectly fine on a team that's trying to make a run, get back in the playoffs and win something. So yes, I'm going with Corbin to just continue because he's been there before. I'm always going to pick guys who've been there before.
Okay, I can't blame you for that. I can't blame you for that as well. And again, it doesn't really matter about team success for the Cy Young, but I do think it plays a part if you look at a guy like Garrett Crochet, who is phenomenal for the White Sox, but never gets any run support. I think sooner or later, not that he's going to be less motivated, I just think that takes away from the aura, the presence you have as a pitcher. I mean, Jacob deGrom, the Cy Youngs he won for the Mets, it was like a 9-9 record. He wasn't getting any run support, but he still won it. So, but you really got to be dominant if that's the case. I look at Seth Lugo, a guy that's having a renaissance year for the Royals, plus 3,000. I don't know if he can continue that. So yeah, I'm definitely waiting a couple more weeks before I think if I'm looking to throw a dart at this award, I'm hoping that I get better odds on Corbin Burns. But there is a lot of value for some of those guys, the plus 2,000 range. Let's look at the MVP. And let's start in the National League here. Do you think, let's not throw a bunch of numbers and odds out. Do you just think it's as simple as it's between Bryce Harper and Shohei Ohtani right now? Or do you think there's somebody else in the mix?
Yeah, I mean, it's Freddie Freeman. You know what I mean? Like the other guy, and again, they could cancel each other out, but I don't think so. Again, it was Mookie Betts, obviously, but Mookie's out of there due to injury. Bryce Harper, he can get on a run, and because the Philadelphia Phillies have such a good record, it can count, but Bryce he doesn't have the raw numbers that Shohei's going to have or that Freddie Freeman's going to have. You know what I mean? The guys who are going to have bat over 300. I think Bryce is 87 as of a couple of days ago. I don't know if it was as of today, but he was 287. But again, those numbers don't compare to Shohei. Like, Bryce has to go on a real rip in order to get there. So I don't like Bryce to do it. Fernando Tatis, it's interesting, but again, I don't believe their team is going to have the team success because his numbers aren't going to be necessarily better than the people above him in Shohei or Bryce or Freddie Freeman, and they're going to need the team success in order to come over. So again, I'm going with Shohei to go ahead and win this thing. And if he gets injured or something happens to him, the other guy to me is going to be Freddie Freeman.
Okay, I like that take. And then the American League, I'm gonna give you my opinion on it. Amir Tyree put it on the rundown, and Tyler Morales as well, who cooked up the rundown for us. Is Aaron Judge the MVP barring an injury? Yes, absolutely. He's minus odds right now. I'm not saying to bet him because you're drinking minus 140 juice, which I don't think I can advise at the halfway point of the season. But let's be honest, if Judge stays healthy, he's the AL MVP. As great of a season as Gunnar Henderson is having, and Juan Soto hits ahead of him. All right, we can still do a little bit more on some of the markets we did not touch, and still we haven't focused on the NFL Comeback Player of the Year awards market in the NFL. But we got Dingbat coming up. We're each going to give you a couple home run hitters. It's Pat Boyle, Sean Bell, Kenny Henderson will get in the mix next on BetQL 5-Star Weekend.
BetQL 5-Star Weekend will be back on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
To an alternate run line of minus 2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've looked at this over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Baseball is winning on the BetQL Network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of minus 2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've looked at this over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Baseball is winning on the BetQL Network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of minus 2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've looked at this over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling?
Welcome back to BetQL 5-Star Weekend on the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
All righty, we're back here, BetQL 5-Star Weekend. It is the last segment of the second hour of the show. That means it's time to pick some home run hitters. We got Sean Bell in for Sean Marash. Kenny Henderson's going to jump on here. He's got a Jamar Chase jersey on. You can see him if you're watching on twitch.tv/BetQL. So here we go, gentlemen. This is what we like to call Dingbat.
Who will win? Who will lose? Who will look dumb? It's time for Dingbat with Sean Marash and Pat Boyle on the Bet.
Yeah, so normally the way that the dunce Sean Marash likes to do this is rock, paper, scissors between three people on camera. It's just a total bleep fest, if you will. So in order to save us the time and the folks listening the confusion of doing that, I'll be the nice guy. I will go last. We do it not even snake draft, just regular draft. Three of us, each of us pick 3 home run hitters. And the idea is usually that if 2 guys pick a home run hitter correctly and somebody else goes 0 for 3, there is then some punishment that needs to be dished out the next week on the show. Assuming that Sean and I will both be back next week, which I believe is the case. We're not gonna pick any punishment for the loser today, but we're still gonna have some fun. We're still gonna try to get you a home run hitter. So, Kenny, you work on the show basically every week, so why don't we go ahead and let Sean Bell go first here and give us his first home run hitter. Sean, who do you got?
Well, see, I'm going to go Homer right now. So I don't think I'm stealing anybody that y'all would actually pick, but this is a guy that we call Mr. June in Philadelphia. I'm going Kyle Schwarber. All right, he hasn't had the hottest, obviously, of season so far, but June is his month. He has more home runs in June than anybody else. So I'm going to believe Kyle Schwarber goes ahead and gives me a homer and puts me on the list today.
Okay, Sean's going with the Schwarbino. Kenny, who do you got?
He did take my pick.
I did? Yes.
It's fine, though, because I'm going to go to another Philly. It's a good matchup today for the Phillies. You look last year in the postseason when they played the Diamondbacks, Bryce Harper owned that pitching staff. Schwarber played very well as well, so that was a great pick. I was going to go with it. I saw it at plus 150. That's how low it is for him to hit a home run today. Bryce Harper's around plus 200. I'll go with Bryce Harper for the Phillies today against the Diamondbacks.
Which, by the way, just ridiculous odds, right? Like, I know we're in a heat dome, as I keep hearing, so, like, the balls are going to fly. It's like 90, 95, most ballparks today. Plus, it's June, and and those guys are home run hitters, but come on. Plus one, like, not getting any value. We're not getting any value. So, I'm going to go for what I think is a little bit of value, and maybe it's even not because he's only plus 250. But Yankee Stadium, we know it can play like a bandbox. And I think we've got Nestor Cortez. We've got Nestor Cortez on the mound, who he's a good pitcher, coming off a great performance for the Yanks. But man, if he is not on, he is susceptible to giving up the long ball. So who hits lefties well in this Braves lineup? That's Mr. Austin Riley. 7 home runs on the season. He's got 3 in his last 7 games, and again, he mashes against lefties. So give me Austin Riley to take Nestor Cortez deep at Yankee Stadium today. He's plus 250. That's my first pick. Back to you, Sean.
Okay. See, this one is all right. It's just a dart. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Okay. It's gonna be the Mets. It's gonna be JD Martinez at plus 575. All right. I'm going JD Martinez because I think the Mets, and a lot of people are gonna say, "What are you talking about?" Because I am a Mets fan, so I don't even know if I should be doing this. It's too much emotions. But I think the Mets have been playing a lot better, and I do think they're going to make a playoff run. They've had a lot of injuries. They're the situation going into the 9th inning and losing like 10 games or something like that has been flat out awful. But they played really good baseball. And JD Martinez has some clutch hits and some big runs as of late. So I'm going to go JD Martinez at plus 575 to put it on the board and the Mets get a dub.
I wonder what the odds are for Grimace to hit a home run, because the purple blob, the McDonald's mascot, is the one getting all the credit for the Mets' hot streak. So I wonder if Grimace was plus 100, would you still take him? Just an unbelievable subplot of the Mets season. First, they had a rally pimp in the beginning of the year that was getting credit for them doing well, and now it's Grimace. So nobody on the actual Mets team, nobody on the actual Mets team is getting credit. So I'm glad you're going JD Martinez. All right, Kenny, what do you got for your second pick?
I thought you were going to take my second pick with your first pick. I am going to go to a Brave. I'm going to go to Marcell Ozuna, who leads the team in home runs. He hits righties and lefties really well. He just smashes baseball. So obviously an ideal pick there. Yankee Stadium, Marcell Ozuna. That's going to be my second pick.
I was thinking about Ozuna. I saw him go deep last night, so it's very well that he could. He, like you said, leads the Braves in home runs, one of the best home run hitters in the game. That free swing, he just waves the bat like it's a toothpick. It's unbelievable how much torque he gets. But no, he did go deep last night, so I generally try to stay away from guys that have gone deep the night before. I'm going to Colorado, where we know the ball always flies, no matter the temperature at Coors Field. And I'm going with a guy that I think is possibly playing his way into one of the big trades this season. And that is Ryan McMahon, the Rockies' third baseman, lefty hitter going up against the righty from Washington, Irvin. And he's got a home run off him before. Only 3 at-bats. One of them was a home run. So he's taken him deep already once in his career. McMahon, 14 bombs on the year, an 840 OPS, 2 home runs in his last 7 games. He actually went deep yesterday, so there you go. I'm going against my logic. But, yeah, I mean, again, I'm going for McMahon. I think he actually doubles up and goes deep again. Plus 350 for Ryan McMahon. Back to you, Sean.
All right, my last one. I'm doubling up here with the Phillies. All right, I feel like if I don't get one, I'll get another. I was gonna think about saying Bryce, but you sort of had that one. I'm gonna go Trey Turner to get a home run. Trey Turner is back in the lineup, and he's been hot back in the lineup. He's been an unbelievable hitter for the guys. Again, has been someone who the Philadelphia Phillies haven't liked. All right, last season wasn't the season they expected, but he played pretty well in certain stretches. This season he started off great, then got injured. Now he's back in the lineup again. I think there's going to be a lot of home runs. They had 3 home runs in yesterday in their Saturday game. They had 3 home runs in that game. I think it's a multi-home run game because when the Philadelphia Phillies are really doing their thing, it's multi-home runs. All right, like they're a team that can bat it and hit it out the park. The only guy that really gets doubles and singles is Alec Boehm, who's having a good season himself. So I'm gonna go with Trey Turner on this one.
Kenny?
All right. Well, so for my last guy, I'm gonna actually go to one of the more underrated players I believe in baseball, Yeimer Candelario. It's either Jeimer or Yeimer from the Reds. He's been playing really well lately, hitting the cover off the ball, hit 2 home runs the other night. Everyone thinks of the Reds, they think of Ellie De La Cruz, some of the other young stars. Candelario was a pickup they got this offseason. He actually was traded to the Cubs last year, played very well for them down the stretch, and he's been good this season. He's got 14 homers for the Reds this year. I think he hits number 15 today against the Red Sox at home.
I'm also going to the Great American Ballpark, the Great American Bandbox that stadium can play like as well. I'm going somebody on Boston, though, and there's one obvious choice, and I'm not going to overlook it. Give me Rafi Devers here. 14 bombs on the year. Only 1 in his last 7 games and only 3 in his last 15. So you can make the argument that he's due. And I know Nick Lodolo, who's going for Cincinnati today, has had a really good season, but, Nicky's due. Nicky's due to give up a bomb. I think Devers is going to do it. So Devers plus 375. I had Austin Riley, Ryan McMahon, Rafael Devers. Those are my 3 picks today for Dingbat. Sean's going with 2 Phillies, almost the Sean Marash theory, where he just takes 3 players from one team, hopes that somebody goes deep. Going Schwarber, Trey Turner, and JD Martinez. And Kenny, you had Ozuna, you had Jeimer Candelario, and your first pick was Harper.
Bryce Harper.
So there you go. All right, there's Dingbat. We'll see who's going to go deep today. Hopefully one of the combined 9 guys that we picked, if not more. All right, we got a couple of minutes here. Let's touch on something that we have not yet in the show. We were talking about Matt Stafford. We were talking about some NFL stuff earlier in the show. NFL Comeback of the Year. We've been looking at an NFL award a week here on this show, looking in at the futures market, just kind of honing in, getting a sense for the odds and the value on this stuff. There's a new voting criteria, by the way, Sean. So, there was I would say a big debate last year. Who deserves to get it? Should it have been Joe Flacco? Should it have been DeMar Hamlin? I think it rightfully went to Joe Flacco. I know DeMar's story was so inspirational. The fact that he was able to play, albeit only in a few games, was great. But Flacco, literally came off the couch and led the Browns to the playoffs. So I think he won it. Again, him and Geno Smith, though, back-to-back years after not being injured. So now the voting will focus. It is changed. New voting criteria. The voting will focus on overcoming illness, injury, or any type of adversity that causes a player to miss time. So, Flacco and Geno Smith, not injured, just 2 guys that were basically counted out on. And then, they call me, I didn't call back. Or what did Geno Smith say? They ain't call me back, I ain't right back. I forget the quote. It was phenomenal. That was one of the great early quotes of, 2 seasons ago. So right away we look at the odds, and Aaron Rodgers is a coin flip, 50-50 plus 100 to win Comeback Player of the Year award at BetMGM. Everybody else plus 1,200 or bigger. Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Sam Darnold, Justin Fields, Gardner Minshew, J.K. Dobbins. Now, again, with this new voting criteria, I think you can basically count out half of these guys on here. Russell Wilson wasn't necessarily hurt, just kind of stinks, right? And Denver kicked him to the curb. Sam Darnold, same thing. Justin Fields was hurt a little bit. I think you can count him in, but, if Rodgers has a halfway decent season and the Jets even sniff the playoffs, I think he's getting gifted the award, whether he deserves it or not. Sean, do you agree? Do you think anybody else here can legitimately win this award?
It's gonna be tough, right? First of all, can we just get a comeback, a most improved player award? Like, can we just throw that in there? Because that's what they've done in the past years. They've combined comeback player of the year and most improved player of the award. Geno Smith wasn't comeback player of the award; it was most improved. So that's what they should be doing. I would say maybe, I don't know if Joe Burrow counts here. I know he's not on the list, but Joe Burrow had injury, so if he has a fantastic season, is it him?
Yeah, Joe Burrow was in our rundown at plus 240. I think he absolutely has to be considered. He missed a chunk of last season. So, maybe we'll get those odds updated, but Joe Burrow absolutely in that conversation. All right, when we come back, final hour of the show, it's BetQL 5-Star Weekend. Pat Boyle, Sean Bell, presented by BetMGM.
BetQL 5-Star Weekend will be back on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
Gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Baseball is winning on the BetQL network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of -2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've
gonna
looked at
say.
this over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL network, presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL network, presented by BetMGM.
Baseball is winning on the BetQL network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of -2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've
gonna
looked at this
say.
over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL network, presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL network, presented by BetMGM.
Welcome back. Presented by BetMGM.
All right, welcome in. Final hour of the show here. I'm Pat Boyle. Sean Marash out today. Sean Bell in. And Amir Tyree doing a great job producing the show. Kenny Henderson did a great job with Dingbat, our home run segment. Dan Turner always on the crew as well. 2 hours down, 1 to go. And as we do every hour here, as United States has a heat dome around it, North America with a heat dome. It's hot everywhere. It's scorching everywhere. Baseball games kicking off in just over an hour, and most of them kicking off in just over 2 hours. So we've given out some bets. We've given out some takes. I'm going to have a take. Let's see if Sean's got a bet here. This is how we start every hour on the show. Hot takes and hot cakes.
Good morning, people. Boy, do I need some hot takes and hot cakes.
So I've given you a bet each of the first 2 hours. I have lost already. My tennis bet did not come through. Lorenzo Musetti in the final at Queen's Club in London was not able to win the second set tiebreak. We would have needed him to win the match anyway after he got crushed in the first set. And sometimes it's just what it comes down to. Had 2 break points, didn't convert either of them, faced 2 break points, got broken on both. So there you go. Them's the breaks, as they say. The second one I gave out last hour, Germany, money line today. That's coming up at 3 Eastern as we enter the final group stage games in the European Championships. I mentioned before, we also got Team USA coming up later today. I don't want to jinx them. I don't want to jinx them and put money on them because you basically have to take them to win by 2 goals if you're going to get any kind of value betting them against Bolivia, who they should crush, but I'm not going to go ahead and jinx them. And Sean, we talked about it. We don't know if you can really trust Team USA. They got to show us. They got to prove it to us first. So I think you've got a bet here, Sean. You've given out a couple of takes for the first 2 hours. Do you have a hot cake, as we like to call? You got a bet here?
Yeah, I got a bet. I talked about earlier the Fever game and the Chicago Sky game. So I have a parlay to give. A same game parlay to give that I think will give you money based on what I think is going to happen in that game, based on what's happened in most games. All right, so here's what I got. I got Trinity Carter having 15 plus points. She's been balling out. She always plays well. She plays with a chip on her shoulder. She's their ace coming off the bench. Angel Reese, 10 points, and Angel Reese, 10 rebounds. That's just what she does. She's double all day long. That's what she's great at. So that's what I'm at. Caitlin Clark going for 18 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. So 6-leg parlay at plus 575. Those are the things I have. And again, these are things that generally happen each and every time out. All right. Trinity Carter is someone who's averaging over 15 points, right? Since she's got all the minutes as of late over the last month. Angel Reese is a human double-double. That's what she does. So 10 points, 10 rebounds to me should be easy money. Caitlin Clark, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. That's what she does. That's what she does. I'm giving you things that are these individuals' averages. Caitlin Clark, now also 18 points. That's a little bit over her average, but it's a big game. She's played the Chicago Sky twice already, so she's used to playing them. She's used to the type of physicality that's going to come from that game, and she'll be prepared for that game. So again, I think both ladies will perform how you expect them to perform and play really well, and I'm going to put the parlay together because I think it's a easy money, plus 575.
And that's the big game today, the centerpiece of a 4-game WNBA slate. In terms of the records, Sun versus the Storm, you got 2 of the better teams in the WNBA going up against one another. But let's be honest, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, all the controversy, all the headlines. Let's see if we get more spiciness, a lot of physical play expected to come Caitlin Clark's way again here. Fever in the Sky, 4 Eastern, Chicago, a 1.5-point favorite. The Fever, after that slow start, Caitlin Clark's been red hot. The Fever have won 4 in a row coming into this one, and they've already beaten the Sky in both of the meetings. A 1-point win on June 1st. Last week on Father's Day, beat them by 8. They don't play again until the final meeting of the regular season between these two on August 30th. So cherish this one today because you're not going to see it for over 2 months. And the Sky, 5-9 on the season. They're kind of limping into this one. Finally snapped a losing streak with a win back on, Thursday when they beat Dallas. But this should be a good one either way. A lot of eyeballs on this one yet again. All right, I got a take for you. And let me preface by saying this. I'm not a baseball purist in the sense that, like, old man yells at cloud, all these rules suck, baseball sucks, it's not the way that it used to be, there are all these dumb rules. Like, for example, I like, and I think Rob Manfred's a clown for the most part, so, like, my opinion on him doesn't change. But, like, some of these new rules that baseball has implemented over the last few years to try to get excitement and engagement back into the game, I think have worked. Like, for example, I know a lot of people can't stand the extra innings runner on second base to start the inning rule. I don't mind it. I really don't. I think it has sped up the game. I mean, how many times in the past did you need to, bore yourself through a 5-hour game that got into the 13th inning, 14th inning? Because, if you got a good duel, you got a 3-3 game or a 4-4 game, it wasn't ending in the 10th or the 11th inning every single time. And I know some did, but for the most part, there was a good amount of games that were going 12, 13, 14 innings, and it just drags on. Like, no baseball game should ever take 5.5 hours. And I don't care how much of a purist you are. You want people to watch a game, not necessarily from beginning to end, but you want people to watch a game from the 7th inning, 6th inning on. You think people are sticking around if a game goes to the 11th inning, to the 12th inning? Absolutely not. So I like the rule of the extra runner on second base to start extra innings. Most games now end in the 10th or the 11th inning. And with the pitch clock, most games now, even if it does go to 11, 12 innings, are going to be, it's only going to be 3 hours, 45 minutes, at most 4 hours. However, speaking of the pitch clock, and I don't have a problem with it in the regular season as it is, but damn it, they better change. They need to, and I don't think they're going to. So Rob Manfred, again, showing why he's a clown. The baseball front office, commissioner's office, showing once again why they don't get it. Once you get to the postseason, you can't be having playoff games determined by the pitch clock. And you saw a game, why do I say this? Well, you saw a game last night. The Colorado Rockies win a walk-off. They walk it off on a pitch clock, bases loaded pitch clock violation. The first time in the history of baseball that you get a walk-off because of a pitch clock violation. Bases loaded, nobody out, full count. And Kyle Finnegan, the reliever, takes too long for the Nationals, and he gets called for pitch clock. Runner comes home because it was ball 4. There you go, ball game over. Yeah, that sucks to see. You don't want to see that. But last year, baseball did not extend the pitch clock into the postseason. They kept it the same, and they have now shortened the pitch clock this year. You got to extend the pitch clock if you're going to keep it, which I don't agree with, because I think once you get to postseason baseball, these new rules like this, you don't keep the runner on second base to start an extra inning. That goes away. So why does the pitch clock stay? I get it to a certain degree. You don't want 4-hour playoff games. You want people to stay excited. You want people to stay engaged. But it's postseason baseball. You play 162 games. As a regular season that, for the most part, 1, 2, even 3 games doesn't really change, doesn't matter a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. And then bang, from 162 games, all of a sudden you lose 3 games, you're done. You get to the ALCS, it's a best of 7. You get to the World Series, it's a best of 7. You're playing 162 games, and only a handful of games determine your season. We're going to have a 15-second pitch clock or an 18-second pitch clock, whatever they shorten it to, determine a game like this. If this happens in the playoffs, you are going to lose more fans than you might have gained implementing some of these new rules to shorten games and get people engaged. If I have to watch a walk-off win in the postseason because of a pitch clock violation, that'll be the straw for me. As somebody that played college baseball, I will be done. I'll be done watching baseball if I watch a pitch clock violation end a game in the playoffs. It better not happen. Extend it a couple of seconds. You don't want to get rid of it completely. Give pitchers 25 seconds. Make sure that each pitch in the postseason that matters, that can change a game, make sure it is treated as delicately as such. Because it's a stupid way to end a game, and I get it. You're not going to change the rules just because it's the 9th inning, but you need to change the rules for the postseason, Sean. I can't stand it if the pitch clock is altering games in the playoffs.
See, I get it. You don't want to see a game in that way. And I agree with you going, hey, let's go to 18 to 25 or something like that. But I don't think that you can change it completely. I don't think you can have, all right, this is what we do all regular season long, and then we don't do it in the playoffs. And I understand with the extra runner, but with this, it's a certain rhythm pitchers and batters have. Right, so if you had that certain rhythm all season long, I think that could genuinely affect how pitchers pitch and how hitters hit in the postseason. It can affect run scores. It can affect the actual game being played. I think it'd take too much for them to adjust. Right, and I know that sounds crazy because these are professional hitters, so they should be able to adjust fine. But then there's all types of new mind games that are played that pitchers are going to play now that they have those extra seconds, and it can throw everything off. I think every batter has a tick. the amount of seconds and the tick when they're watching the pitcher to know when to go, to know when to get prepped, to know when to do something with an angle with their bat. And if you change that all of a sudden, I think that you could just drastically change how many hits you get and how many runs are scored, and that can affect the viewership and affect how the game looks and how exciting the game will actually be in the postseason.
I get what you're saying about rhythm and you know, you don't want to throw off pitchers and batters. Let me ask you this though: do we, if the NBA was officiated the same way it was in the regular season for the playoffs, do you think playoff basketball would be as interesting?
Oh, it's officiated way better in the playoffs.
Exactly.
So I kind of get your point, but yeah, it's officiated way better.
Exactly.
And I was just gonna say to your point, or to my point, that has seriously affected, for guys who have never dealt with that before, playoff basketball, that is seriously affects how their ability to play. Like it's guys who you could tell who's never played in playoff basketball before, and some of those young cats, because all of a sudden they just don't look as good. They don't know how to score. They're not getting certain calls, and it takes some seasons to recognize how they need to play in the playoffs. So it does affect how the players end up playing. It's just at the end of the day, you just got to adjust, and it's a better officiated game.
And I know that it's a timing thing with baseball. It's not necessarily, you know, you're calling fouls or whatnot like that. I just, you know, you got to be a little bit more lenient when each pitch holds a significant amount of weight, to the point where, you know, you got a full count, bases loaded. You're going to call a guy for taking an extra half of a second too long. So I don't know if they need to be more. You're not going to change the rules. Umpiring crews better be way more lenient with it. Like, if the clock hits 0, you better give that guy like an extra half a second or a second to deal with it then. You know, again, to cross sports here, we look at football, and I know that even we get on the refs every single week in the NFL for being terrible. And there's calls that have changed playoffs games for sure. I mean, just, you know, Saints fans, cover your ears. But you know, like I would say, even in the Super Bowl and even in the conference championships, the officials are more lenient with the penalty flags, and you actually get to see the football that we paid and that we came to see here. So I hope that we don't have any games determined by the stupid freaking pitch clock rule in the postseason, which I think should be eliminated or extended by at least 5, 6, 7 seconds, because, you know, imagine that you watch a great Rockies-Nationals game, not many of them in the regular season with two teams as they are, but you finally get a great game, and it ends because of the pitch clock, because the umpire couldn't let an extra second. God forbid we gave an extra second of leniency, you know, to the pitcher. Either way, let's move on here. We got GTFO or Oh Yeah coming up, but really quickly, any other quarterbacks you think will sign in a contract extension this offseason? Trevor Lawrence got the bag from Jacksonville. He's now tied for the highest contract, the highest paid quarterback in the NFL with Joe Burrow. I think that was a massive mistake. We talked about that last week. I don't think Trevor Lawrence will ever be a top 5 quarterback in football. I know you got to pay the quarterback. I think Jacksonville could have waited a little bit longer to do that, especially with the plethora of quarterbacks we could see hit free agency next year. But we know Dak wants a contract extension. We know Tua wants a contract extension. We know Jordan Love now wants a contract extension. He's in a unique spot because he's only been a starter for really 1 year. Really quickly here in about 30, 60 seconds, Sean, do you think any of those 3 guys gets a new deal here before the season starts?
Not if the teams are smart. I think it's all wait and see for those 3 guys. All right, Dak, you can go win a couple playoff games, get further, right? Jordan Love, you've only done this for 1 season, right? Tua, you've been off and on and injured, and you haven't won big game. So I would wait if I was a GM on all 3 of those guys. Say, hey, you got to prove a little bit more and do it for a second season if I'm going to pay you. Trevor Lawrence shouldn't have gotten it this early because he hasn't played great, but he got it.
I think Dak is ultimately going to get his contract, I think, before the season starts here. I just think if you're Dallas, like, what other option do you have? And I get it. The playoff criticisms are totally fair on Dak and Dallas as a whole. You know, they crumble as soon as the calendar flips to January. But all this great regular season success, the chemistry that he's got with CeeDee Lamb, as bad as Dallas was a couple of years ago when they kind of went through that rebuilding, Dak's been the constant presence. And for the most part, he's durable. He shows up, He plays in the regular season. Whatever they got to do to fix that postseason bug, I don't necessarily think that should deter them from paying Dak because there ain't a whole lot of other great options out there for them. All right, the best parts of the show is coming up. GTFO or Oh Yeah, and our best bet still to come. It's Pat Boyle, Sean Bell, BetQL 5-Star Weekend.
BetQL 5-Star Weekend will be back on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM. Baseball is winning on the BetQL Network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of -2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've
gonna
looked at this
say.
over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Baseball is winning on the BetQL Network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of -2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've
gonna
looked at
say.
this over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Baseball is winning on the BetQL Network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of -2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've
gonna
looked at this
say.
over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL's Send It In with PJ Glasser.
All right, welcome back. 2 segments to go here on BetQL 5-Star Weekend. We've got GTFO or Oh Yeah coming up. We still got our best bets of the show, plus a little DGen bets. I mean, I've given you a tennis and a soccer bet. I don't know how much more DGen it can get for the mainstream casual sports fan, but I got something for you, and my best bet is going to involve Game 7 tomorrow night, which I think is the biggest hockey game probably in the last 15 years, probably since the gold medal game USA-Canada in 2010. And in my opinion, this is probably the biggest NHL game in the last 20 years. I think you had Game 7, Oilers and Hurricanes the year after the lockout. So the first year of hockey that we had after the lockout, you had Game 7 Stanley Cup Finals. I think just important in terms of importance and weight. You've got the best player in hockey. You've got Canada trying to win a Stanley Cup for the first time in, 30 years, right? Since the Habs won it. It was 95, whatever year that was. And you've got a team looking to come back from 0-3 down in the Stanley Cup Finals for just the second time in history. And a team looking to come back from 0-3 down in the playoffs for just the 5th time in history. I think if Connor McDavid and the Oilers win this tomorrow, I think that cements his legacy already. I mean, he's still got, 10 years probably still to play in hockey, if not more. I think that cements him as maybe the second greatest hockey player of all time behind Wayne Gretzky, considering what he has still left in front of him. He wins the Cup. He's going to win the Conn Smythe. He might win it even if they lose. He's looking to become only the second skater behind Reggie Leach of the Flyers to win the Conn Smythe in a losing effort. That's if Edmonton loses. If they win it, he's winning it. So a huge game for hockey tomorrow night. I'll be locked in. My bet's not going to be on a side. I'm going to focus on something else. But before we get there, like I just mentioned, one of the best segments, we've got GTFO or Oh Yeah. Let's get to it.
It's now time for GTFO or Oh Yeah.
All right, Sean Bell, so I'll give you a couple scenarios. You want to flip the script on me and give me a couple scenarios as well here that we've got on our rundown from Amir Tyree and Tyler Morales. It's simple. I give you a scenario. I give you a statement. You tell me GTFO, which I don't have to tell you what that acronym is, or Oh Yeah. You disagree or agree. Let's start with the NFL. We are what? I don't know how many days exactly. I think it's less than 70 days away from opening night, week 1, a rematch of the AFC Championship game, Ravens versus the Chiefs. GTFO or Oh Yeah, the Ravens will beat the Chiefs in week 1.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely picking the Ravens to beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs historically will start off slow. Now, granted, starting off slow for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid is like 4-2, but they start off slow and then we'll have huge second halves of the season and be absolutely dominant. They started off with their Super Bowl winning year losing to Detroit, right? Because they had, contract holdouts and injuries, but went on to obviously win the Super Bowl. I think the same is going to be said this year. How many criminal cases and issues have the Kansas City Chiefs had this offseason? It's been absolutely ridiculous. Like, those guys have not been honed in. Again, it's not a majority of the guys. It's a small minority, but still, guys haven't been honed in and locked in. Rashee Rice hasn't been honed in and locked in. So I can see them going into the season still being Hollywood after winning 2 consecutive straight, and Andy Reid needing to get those guys together, and them struggling a little bit. Again, they had the flat out talent to win another Super Bowl, obviously, right? Because bringing in Xavier Worthy, if Rashee Rice has his mind right, their passing game is going to be even better. But game 1, I see them just losing based on their history of playing in early on in the season and all the issues they've had in the offseason. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that. And I don't think we have an official spread or money line breakdown on that game, at least not on BetMGM. I don't know if there's any other, other options to say it lightly there that have that game already up. Actually, yeah, Kenny's telling us that the Ravens are +3, so it's going to be a field goal game. +132 on the money line. Kenny Henderson, who did Dingbat with us, says he loves that. Ravens his favorite pick already for Week 1. I'd like to see what else happens here in training camp. And, God forbid we have a big injury to either of these two teams before the season even begins. But that is what it's looking like right now. Ravens +3. I like that as well. I'm going to go, oh, yeah. We said if the Lions, with all the hype they had going in last year, can beat the Chiefs, and the Ravens can absolutely beat them. Let's not forget you're going to have revenge on Baltimore's mind after they came up short in the AFC Championship game at home. They've added Derrick Henry now to their team. We had a good debate before, Sean Bell, you and I, about how running backs are they more important than receivers? Well, we know Derrick Henry is going to add to this offense, absolutely. And although they did lose Patrick Queen to the Steelers, they still have Roquan Smith on that defense. Kyle Hamilton has taken over as probably the best safety in football. I don't even know if I have to say probably anymore when talking about him because he's that dominant. So, yeah, I think you're going to get good value on the Ravens to win that game in Week 1. Let's stay with football here. The NFC South seems like it's the most open division in football on a yearly basis. So GTFO or oh yeah, Sean, a team other than the Falcons will win the NFC South.
This is a hard one. Because the only other team that has a possibility is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made the playoffs last year. Baker Mayfield's going to be back again. He's not some elite quarterback, but still had a really good year last year, threw for over 4,000. And there'll be another team that I think once again will be a 9-8 squad, right? They'll be 9-8, hovering around there, maybe 10-7. They'll play really solid football, but their ceiling is nowhere near as high as a lot of other teams' ceilings are. But if Kirk Cousins comes in and healthy, and he's good, then I'm gonna say GTFO on here, and that the Falcons are gonna win because the Falcons got talent on the offensive end. So if Kirk Cousins comes in fully healthy and it is the Kirk Cousins, like you said with the bet with the last one, I'm gonna wait until training camp. With training camp, I see a healthy Kirk Cousins. I'm gonna say, get out of here, everybody else. Kirk Cousins doesn't play well in big games. We know that when he plays 4:00 games and 7:00 games, but a regular 1:00 game, he will light you up. And that's why I think they'll win the division.
Yeah, he's the new nightmare when they were kicking off an hour behind the Eastern time zone. Now he's going to be, 1 p.m. We're going to have to maybe make up a new nickname for Kirk Cousins. But yeah, and I also think it's important not to overlook the Saints too, right? It just feels like they've been banged up. Dennis Allen, it doesn't feel like he's going to last as the head coach of that team. But I mean, let's not forget an offense that is centered around Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, Jamal Williams now, and Chris Olave is pretty damn formidable. And we know that if that defense is healthy, they are a force to reckon with. Honey Badger's not in his prime, but he's still pretty damn good. Marshawn Lattimore now at corner for them. And the front of Cam that's led by Cam Jordan, let's not forget, they added Chase Young as well. Like, Saints could be scary. It feels like they will find a way to mess it up one way or another and finish like 8-9 or 7-10. But I'm going to go, oh yeah, just because I don't think the Falcons I think the Falcons are good, like you mentioned. If Kirk Cousins is good, I don't think the Bucs are repeating. It is wide open. So, you're telling me the Saints or the Bucs can win that division again. I will say, oh yeah, regardless of Kirk Cousins' health. So I'll disagree with you there on that one. Sticking with football, NFL heavy GTFO or oh yeah today. Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, the main candidates to be QB1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know my answer on this, Sean, but I'm going to ask you. Justin Fields should start over Russell Wilson. Justin Fields should start Week 1 for the Steelers. GTFO or oh yeah?
It's going to be – I like Justin Fields, but it's going to be GTFO. I think Russell Wilson got a little more blame that he should have gotten last year with the Denver Broncos. I think a lot of that not doing certain things. Again, Russ has a lot to blame also. Like how he is in the locker room, how he galvanizes the team. There's issues there, but he played solid football. And that's all they need y'all to play. They don't need you to be dynamic. Play smart, solid football over in Pittsburgh. They're 9-8 or 8-8 to 9-8 every year for a reason. That great defense is going to have great defense. They have a two-headed monster when it comes to the running back game. So they just need your quarterback to play smart, play off of the play action, and Russell Wilson is able to do that. He did that his whole career. That's when he was at his best. Justin Fields, I think, has a higher ceiling at this point in his career than Russell Wilson has. I think Russell Wilson's, is far past his prime, but can still play good football. And Justin Fields can give you the wow plays of running the rock, but he's not going to be able to steady the ship at this point in his career like I think Russell Wilson will be able to. Simple that Mike Tomlin wants you to play.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree here again. I think it should be Justin Fields. I don't think it will. I think it will be Russell Wilson, like you said, and I think it's only a matter of time. We're looking again. Who's getting the blame when the Steelers are 2-3 or 3-4, 6-7 weeks in? The offense just can't move the football, and I think that's the time where Mike Tomlin says, "You know what? I'm going to make a change here. I'm giving it to Justin Fields, who at this point, and this is, I think an obvious statement here, is more lethal with his legs than Russell Wilson. Maybe not 5-6 years ago when Russ was still close to his prime, but at this point, we know the danger that Justin Fields presents with his legs, and I think if it gets to the point where Pittsburgh's having trouble throwing the ball with Russ, or they're just having trouble throwing the ball in general, and hopefully George Pickens isn't going on Instagram after the game and posting all types of wild stuff. Hopefully they can keep that locker room together. And Matt Canada is no longer the scapegoat for Pittsburgh. So, we'll see here what that offense looks like in the first couple of weeks. But I think Arthur Smith coming in, a guy that, basically told everybody, hey, I'm smarter than all of you. I've got the keys to the Ferrari, and yet I'm going to ride my bike. When he's got Bijan Robinson, when he had all the weapons with Atlanta, he's the OC now. So I don't necessarily think that the play calling is going to get any better. I don't know how it could get worse when it was Matt Canada. But I think if there's a change to be made, if this Steelers team is staying true to their name, which is a 500 team through the first half of the season, I do think, and I just don't believe in Russell Wilson too. I don't think I think Justin Fields got a lot more of the blame for what happened in Chicago than he deserved. And I still think they should have stuck with him rather than going for Caleb Williams. That's a whole other conversation. I don't think Caleb Williams is going to be the quarterback that the Bears are praying that he's going to be. Hopefully that he could be the savior. But I still think that Justin Fields has a lot of talent. I do think his decision-making got better last year as the season went on with Chicago, and I think that he could be a guy that leads the Steelers to the playoffs. I mean, we've seen the type of quarterbacks that have taken the Steelers to the playoffs in years past, right? Mason Rudolph last year. So I think Justin Fields absolutely can do that, and I think even though he won't be the starter week one, I think he should, and I think he ultimately gets Russell Wilson's job. All right, let's go to the NFC. We saw the hype around the Lions coming into last season. They delivered. They got all the way to the NFC Championship game. Should have went to the Super Bowl. Blew that game against San Francisco. Do you think this is Detroit's year? The Lions will be the number one seed in the NFC, GTFO, or oh yeah, Sean?
I'm going to say GTFO. I think the Lions are an incredible team. They looked really good, but they also had the softest schedule you can possibly have this last year. Right, because they were the up and coming seed and they weren't the number one in their division or all that other stuff. They got a fluffy schedule. This year is not the case. You're going to have a number one seed type of schedule, a number one in division type of schedule, and it's going to be much. And teams like the 49ers are going to be better, right? Like I just the 49ers I think are going to be the number one seed. That's who I would bet being the number one seed because the 49ers, it's just pencil them in to be 12, 13 wins, 14 wins a season if they're healthy. Pencil them in to be in the NFC Championship game. I don't see any reason why they would have a letdown, even though they're having Brandon Ayuk discussions right now. That defense is still going to be that defense. That offense is still going to be that offense. And they're used to playing big dog schedules every year because they've been that number one seed 3 of the last 4, not the number one seed, but number one in their division 3 of the last 4 years. So I think they're used to that. I think they're battle tested, and I think they're going to continue to be that good of a football team. Now, whether or not they finish it off and win the Super Bowl is another question. But as far as regular season wins, I believe the 49ers can navigate a tough schedule better than Detroit because Detroit's tough schedules before.
I agree with you. I agree. I still think San Francisco, pound for pound, is the best team in the NFC. And I think Green Bay could actually win the NFC North over Detroit. That's how much stock that I have bought into with Jordan Love and the Packers and that young wide receiving core. Can they stay healthy? Some of the notable non-division games for the Lions this year at San Francisco on the road in the second to last week of the season. That could determine who gets the number one seed. They play the Bills at home. They play the Texans on the road. They play the Cowboys on the road. So they got a lot of tough games this season as well, like you mentioned. Let's really quickly here, 20 seconds or less. Jimmy Butler will be on a new team next season. GTF or oh yeah?
Nah, he won't. He'll be on the Miami Heat. They argue all the time and they bicker all the time, but he's perfect for Miami, and Miami has nothing without him.
I agree with you. GTFO. I think he's staying in Miami. I don't think there is that much interest to the point, in Jimmy Butler to the point where he will get traded to Philly or he'll get traded to another contender. I agree with you. GTFO. He's staying with the Heat. And we'll see if they can make a run if he can stay healthy next year. All right, final segment of the show coming up here. Degeneration bets plus our best bets. Anything that we haven't touched on, we'll get to it. Don't go anywhere. Pat Boyle, Sean Bell. This is BetQL 5-Star Weekend on the BetQL Network.
BetQL 5-Star Weekend will be back on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Baseball is winning on the BetQL Network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of -2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've
gonna
looked at
say.
this over and over and over again.
On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
Are you ready for the most interactive sports gambling show? Introducing BetQL Send It In with PJ Glasser. We want to hear from you. Send It In is about your picks, your trends, and your fades. Share your thoughts, predictions, and your best daily best bets with the Send It In community. Set your reminders, mark your calendars, and get ready to send it in on weekday afternoons at 1 Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. On your home for wagertainment, the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM.
Baseball is winning on the BetQL Network with Bet for the Cycle featuring Cody Decker.
Cody Decker, former professional baseball player, turned professional smartass on the radio.
And handicapper Rob Brown.
Couldn't hit a baseball off a high school pitcher. That's why I played soccer.
Double plays, props, and parlays.
Not only Blue Jays run line here, Cody, I might tease it up to an alternate run line of -2.5.
Join the chaos every Saturday from Welcome back to BetQL 5-Star Weekend on the BetQL Network. Presented by BetMGM.
Yeah, baby. Final segment of the show. We got a couple last bets to give you out. Game 7 Stanley Cup Finals tomorrow night. I was going to say we're ready to do degeneration bets, but Sean, you got something for me?
Yeah. I gotta listen. I gotta get the out of here right now for Major League Baseball. And I understand what they're trying to do, but I don't like it. The Phillies game is about to come on, and it's on Roku. It's on Roku. Like, what are we doing here? And I get the money that they're trying to make, and I get where TV is going, where all these games are going to be paid for with different platforms. But Roku, right? Like, we can't have something that everybody has. Like when they do the Facebook games. Facebook? What are we doing here? Like, why can't we at least do it where everyone has this? Like Amazon, I get. Amazon is everywhere. You're going to have it on Amazon. But Roku? I ain't got no Roku. Now I got to, after the show goes off, I got to turn on, like, is it still playing on a local station? Because sometimes it will, but sometimes it won't. You know what I mean? And now it's just like, all right, I ain't got a Roku at all. So now I got to pirate it. Because you know I will pirate it. Because why not? Everybody's pirating nowadays. Arrest me. Like, but still, why I got to do all of this to watch a baseball game, man? Have it on platforms that everyone can sort of at least try to get, right? Even my dad's going to call me and be like, hey, how do I get this game? I'm like, Dad, you know what? I don't know. Right? No, a lot of people don't know. You actually got to have Roku. Like, it's all right. That's all I had to say. It's just annoying to me. And I get why, I get where TV is going and money and all that other stuff. But Roku of all places makes me more annoyed than Facebook. It makes me more annoyed than Facebook, Amazon, all of them. Roku, come on, man.
My favorite line of the entire show, and maybe the last several weeks, is, you know I'm going to pirate it. Arrest me.
Right? You know what's going to happen. You know that's what we doing.
Baseball got to understand one thing. They're not the NFL. They are not the NFL. The NFL is putting games on Netflix now for Christmas. The NFL's got games on Peacock. NFL's got playoff games on Peacock, and the ratings were phenomenal for, what was that, Chiefs, Dolphins. The NFL can do whatever they damn well please because most people will pay to watch the NFL. Major League Baseball is not the NFL. So, you know what? I was actually pissed Friday night. The Yankees played the Braves on Apple TV Plus, whatever they call it now. And I didn't pirate it, but you know what I did the old-fashioned way? I texted my roommate, yo, you got Apple TV Plus? I bet I'm using it because I refuse. That's where my line in the sand is, on Apple TV to watch baseball games. So I hear you on that.
But you said it. Even then, the places that you said the NFL does it, at least most people have it or can get access to it. But baseball does it in places where it's just like, Apple TV, Roku, really? At least football does it in Netflix. Who ain't got Netflix or know someone who has Netflix? Like, for me, I'm like, I don't even know who has Roku.
I thought Roku was the robot that was the vacuum your floor.
It's that too.
What is in that?
It's
Roku?
It's multiple things. That actually is called Roku also. I know Roku is the thing that you could put on the back of the TV. But it's all Roku. Yeah, that's also the cleaner, and it's much better.
What is the robot vacuum cleaner? Is it actually? Is it?
No,
Roku?
you're right.
Roomba. No, I'm thinking of Roomba.
Okay.
Dan Turner, Roomba.
That's what I thought.
I mean, either way, yeah. I couldn't tell you what. Like now, I feel like an old man. Like I feel like, no offense, I feel like a boomer. Where I'm like, how do I watch this game now? You're not football. You're not the NFL. So stop trying to be it, because I would love to see like the instant return of how many people actually tuned into Roku to watch, like you said, the Phillies game here. How many people are tuning into Apple TV Plus on a Friday night, nonetheless? Like a Friday night where people actually like have lives and do stuff and go at work. How many people are say, yeah, you know what? Let me download Apple TV Plus so I can watch one of 162 games that my team is playing on. Absolute nightmare.
And you can't watch it at the bar.
Yeah, another reason why
they don't have Roku or Apple TV at the bar.
You're hoping whatever watering hole or restaurant you're going to, you're hoping that the owner has Roku, because otherwise you're SOL. All right. I'm glad that you brought that to my attention, because it's, the NFL does it. We can complain all we want. Most of us are going to watch. That NFL is king. Baseball, totally different situation. So I agree with you there. All right, we still got a couple of bets left to give out. Let's get saucy with it. It's time for degeneration bets.
I might be a year older. I might be a little grayer. But at the end of the day, I'm still a degenerate.
Oh, yeah. And I got to give another nod to Kenny Henderson, who does a good job every week, as does Dad Turner, as has Amir Tyree here on the show. But, yeah, Kenny's in the chat, in our chat on the stream, saying Pat's normal bets are tennis and his degen bets are baseball. Well, you're right. You're not wrong. So a bet that's out of the ordinary, a bet that, some people might be going to the Euros for soccer, a Copa America to bet an over or an under or a draw, something that most people don't normally bet in. I normally don't bet on pitchers, outs, over, under. To me, that is kind of a degen bet, because there's so many different factors that can change that. But, we're going to mix it up here. A pitcher that I covering the Yankees, working at WFAN in New York, having to watch the Yankees, Nestor Cortez. I'm going to go under on his outs today, 17.5. So if he goes 6 innings or more, that means this bet loses, and I don't think he's going to. I think he's going to toss 5 2/3 or less, so under 17.5 outs for Nestor Cortez. One of the most important things that I think doesn't get taken into account with this thing is that I think the Yankees bullpen is fresh. Now, the Yankees bullpen is beat up. Let me say that. The Yankees bullpen has not been good, and it's been injured. But last night, you get basically a blowout win where they pitched their bottom of the barrel relievers, and Marcus Stroman was able to give them length. So I think today the Yankees have their closer, Clay Holmes. They've got their best relievers ready to go here. So I think that, coupled with the fact that I don't think Nestor Cortez is going to have a great game, I think he is not going to pitch 6 full innings here. He has gone under 5 2/3 in 4 out of his last 6 starts. However, the last 2, he went over. He went 6 innings against Baltimore, and he went 7 innings against Kansas City. I do think this Atlanta lineup poses a lot more problems for him. And I think it's a day game. I think the balls have been flying. It's hot. So I think after 2 really good performances, I think Nestor kind of comes back down to earth, because he had a stretch of 4 straight starts where he wasn't all that great. And I think this Atlanta lineup bounces back after seeing a righty sinker baller like Stroman last night. I think that Nestor, if he's not on, again, he's a guy that can give up home runs, and he can give up a lot of them, and he can get shelled. I think this Atlanta lineup bounces back, and he can still pitch decently well, but I expect a lot of deep counts, so I don't think Nestor's going to be able to get past 5 2/3 innings. So I'm going under 17.5 outs on Nestor Cortez.
Okay. The deep one. I see you avoided some tennis talk again. You were just like, I'm not going back to that well after a rough morning. I'm going, and this is, random. People probably don't even know this name. Arika Ogunbowale for the Dallas Wings is the Allen Iverson. And I know this is saying a bit much, but listen to what I'm saying. Is the Allen Iverson of the WNBA. And when I say that, I mean she has the greenest light you've ever seen in your life. She shoots everything. All right, like it's not even a question whether or not she's going to get up shots. She's going to get 20 plus shots in almost every game. So in some places you can bet shot totals in the WNBA and bet that she's going to shoot over 20 times. I'm also going to bet that she's going to score over 23.5 points. She averages 24, but she's going to score more, and especially because her Maddie Seacrest out of Villanova, shout out to her, she's out due to injury. Arika's been shooting even more shots, been taking all of those shots, and she's 37% from the field, which is awful. Mind you, the WNBA, for those who don't know, they have a lower shooting percentage than the NBA. So a 37% is similar to a 42% like Allen Iverson used to shoot. So Arika Ogunbowale, go look at her numbers, go look at her play, and you'll have fun watching her play, because she will miss a layup, get her own rebound from the layup point line, shoot a bomb, and hit it. Like a game could time. So that's what I'm betting. That's what I'm counting on because why not?
All right, it's time to fire off anything else we got left in the chamber. Best bet for me is usually a bet that I'm emotional about. Today, not so much, but it's still, if I'm betting on my team, if I'm betting against my team because I'm sick and tired of watching them, if I'm betting on or against a player because I feel some type of way about them, not necessarily the case tomorrow, but it's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, so we will still call it Boyle's Beef Bet.
Pat Boyle's Beef Bet of the Week. I'm angry. I'm ready. I need to bet. It's Pat Boyle's Beef Bet of the Week on the Bet.
Yeah, not a whole lot of beef. I mean, I will have beef if I don't see a lot of goals tomorrow night. Game 7, Stanley Cup Finals, Panthers-Oilers. My best bet for that is I'm taking the over 5.5 on BetMGM. It's gone over in 4 of the last 4 straight games. It's gone over in 4 straight games. We saw 2 defensive masterclass performances from Florida to start this series, 3-0 and 4-1. And since then, the Oilers have slowly but surely figured out the vice script that is the Panthers defense. They have figured them out. Connor McDavid has been electric. This Oilers offense has been electric. Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, all the normal cast of characters for Edmonton have been delivering. The power play, their special teams has been better. And I just simply think that Florida, even though it's a Game 7, even though it's at home, it's not like a Game 7 in the NBA where guys are shooting with pressure. There's more defense. I expect goals in this game. I'm going over 5.5 here. I want to see a lot of goals. I want to see a lot of offense for what is going to be one of the biggest hockey games in recent memory. Over 5.5. Give me some goals tomorrow.
I'm like it. I'm taking your bets. All right. I'm not the biggest of hockey guys, but I'm going to take your bet. I'm going to go the over. And I just got to ask you, are we sure who's going to win? Are you sure who's going to win? Should I put a bet on who's going to win, or would you lay off of that?
I'm not touching a side. I'm not touching a side. It's so hard to judge when you've got 3-0 and then 3-0 right back. I mean, again, and away teams have won more games in these playoffs, so who knows? Sean, pleasure working with you, bro. Hopefully work together again soon. Big thanks, as always, to Dan Turner and Kenny Henderson. Nice job, Amir Tyree, as well. I'm Pat Boyle. We'll see you next. Keep it locked in here, though. BetQL 5-star weekend on the BetQL Network.
You've been listening to the BetQL Network, presented by BetMGM. If you missed any of the shows, listen back anytime on the new and improved Odyssey app.
From noon to 4 Eastern.
Can you explain to me how these are the same odds? Can someone please explain to me how these are the same odds?
Exactly what I was
I've
gonna
looked at
say.
this over and over and over again.
On your home